Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the channel. We might have a bit of issues tonight because I think the internet's been a bit sticky for some reason. We did have a bit of stuttering going on 10 minutes ago, so if it goes a bit funny, I do apologise. You will have to put up with the stuttering. It seems to be okay at the moment, so just keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's settled.
Right, as per
Yeah.
usual, we've got our hostess with the mostess, Andy. I'm sure he'll tell you what
Hello.
dress he's in tonight.
Well, I'm back in green sequin.
Oh, the green
Feel,
sequined one.
I'm feeling nature with all this lovely spring that we've been getting.
Oh, that's good.
That's
Right,
it.
right. With all this spring we've been getting. Right, what we'll do, as per usual, as we always do on our regular Sunday night slots, we'll start off with tarot readings for anybody who wants them. Um, then we normally do a paranormal chat for a bit on various subjects, and then we just literally go downhill from there with topics of the discussion. So, welcome everybody. Um, yeah, Karen, that's no problem. Andy will add you to the list. Hi, Maureen. Streamlabs should be up and running. I've just seen the loyalty point scheme advertised. When we do the chat later on, I forgot to tell you this, Andy, before we started. Sam's going to
Oh,
join us as well, so we can have our typical three-way giggle. Um,
brilliant.
Hopefully, we'll be joined by Mr. Wipey as well. Um, for those of you who don't know, you can check Sam's channel out later. She's done a quick video on Mr. Wipey. That's Life After Life TV Productions.
Oh, brilliant.
He was actually he made his debut on Friday night stream. It was quite funny actually. But I'm sure Mr. Wipey will be in the screenshot when Sam comes in. Right, Andy. So if you just make a note of who wants the
I'm taking names. Yeah, if anybody would like a reading, just pop cards, please, in chat, and I'll take all your names. But yeah, first up, we've got Karen.
okay. Was there somebody before? I'm sure there was somebody before Karen.
I've just bobbed back and looked, and I didn't
See if
see.
Jane. I'm sure Jane said she wanted one.
Oh, wait, Jane.
Might have been higher up the chat.
No, I've got to the first bit. We've got Jane. Hope
Hang
you're
on.
well.
Let me look.
Karen, and then I think, and then Tracy B, and then Jane.
All right, that's all right
Oh,
then.
and Melanie. Yeah, I've got it in order.
You've
Yeah,
got them all. Okie
yeah.
dokie then. So is it Karen first?
Karen first.
Okie dokie. We'll do it the way we normally do it, with a four-way spread. Past, present, future, and final outcome. Hi, Maureen. Your gambling's on, so you should be happy. Well, I think it's on anyway. You'll have to check. For those of you that don't know, we do run it's like a little loyalty scheme thing we do in the channel. It doesn't cost anybody any money. It's totally free. Basically, the longer you're on the channel, the more your points accumulate, and then you can then use them um, to play little chat games. If anybody needs any info on what to do, just ask Maureen or one of the other regulars in the chat, and they'll explain to you what the commands are. You just spend your paranormal points on various little games. Now, Stephen, good evening. You're fine for a read. You're okay. We may be joined later on. I ain't sure. It depends on whether they've got up on time or not, Andy.
Yeah.
By a couple of the Australian channels, who I said, if
Okay,
they're up,
okay, yeah.
because it's 7 a.m. over, it'll be about 7 a.m. over there when they get up.
Yep.
So it'll be about 10 o'clock here if they come on, if they've managed to get up. And I did say I'd slot them a couple of readings in if they came on, because obviously them getting up mega early. But it does
Yep.
depend solely on whether they get up or not. Uh,
Yep.
Good news with the channel is we actually did cross the 4,000 watch hours today. We're up to nearly 4,100, Andy.
That's good. Very good.
So we jumped from 399 yesterday to, I think it's about 4,075 now. So
Mm,
just got to work
good.
on the subs and stuff, and then we'll be sorted. It'll be nice to actually go out and just use the phone without having to use Streamlabs or anything because
Yeah, it does. It does make it easier.
well,
You know.
it takes up a lot of processing power on the phone to run the Streamlabs app. So that's why I ain't really done any lives,
Right.
outside yet.
Yeah.
But when we do, hopefully, in a couple of months, that'll be all up and running. We'll hit the 1,000 subs, and then once they activate all that, as promised, I will do a big session in Wombwell Woods. Andy obviously will be invited to come along because I think it'll be good for Andy to be there, Andy and Becky. And then we'll see if any of the smaller local people want to come as well, Andy. Entirely up to them.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
Obviously, Andy will do his own thing in his, and we'll do ours, sort of thing. Right, okay, we'll do the first reading then. So this is for Karen. If you notice, Andy, I've stuck some. Has my screen stopped? Has my camera stopped?
I don't know. I was just like, just seeing if it catches up. I can. Your camera's fine on Skype, but there's no coming on YouTube screen.
Yeah. Hang on a sec. I may need to. For some reason, we've got a camera issue, folks. I might have to.
I think it has froze, hasn't it? Because there's no
fuzzy.
there's no fuzziness happening in yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you still see me on Skype?
I can see you on Skype.
Just bear with me, folks. I don't know what's going on here. It's just playing silly buggers. So can you see me waving cards in front of the camera on Skype?
I can't at minute. That seems to have gone as well.
Okay, I'm gonna need to. Hang on. I'll turn the camera off on Skype and back on and see if it fixes it.
Okay.
Right. Can you see him on Skype now?
I can see you on Skype doing that, yeah.
But nothing's still coming through on the main screen, is it?
On my screen, it's just all gone black at the minute.
Yeah, it's black on mine as well.
Right.
Oh God, I don't want to do these, boy. I knew we'd get something happen tonight. There's always something. Camera 1 feed. For some reason, my cam feed ain't coming through on the what's it either, because I could extend it. Let me see if I can extend it on that one. I might have to do it in small thing, Andy.
All right.
Properties. Oh, I've just selected you for that one. Right, can you see it on screen now?
No, it's come up yet.
Hang on, give it a second.
Yeah.
It should come up in a minute. Right, I'm just gonna have to stretch my webcam source out, and we'll run from there. You should see it come up now. It should be working. Yep, it seems to be. Right. So
right, there it is.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Right, we've got the Fool. We've got Ops. We've got that. Sorry about that, Karen. We had a bit of a technical issue then. I don't know why the background screen stopped working. It's just playing silly buggers at the moment. Right, Karen. For your past, you've got... I thought it was the Fool, it's the Page of Swords. You've got the Page of Swords right now. What that tells me is recently there has been a slow change in ideas and beliefs. What that is saying to me is recently in the past your belief system has been slightly changing. The page to me always suggests youth or the beginnings of something. It's very similar to the Fall uh, pages. Same with Knights, but the page is more of the beginning of a change. Because it's the swords, it's the intellectual realm. So that is why I always say swords represents beliefs and ideas. So in the recent past, there has definitely been a starting of a change in your belief system or in a change of your ideologies. It could be that maybe what you've believed in the past, it isn't a drastic change. It's a gradual change. It's maybe a building up of your belief system that has started to occur recently. It's a slow changing system because it's represented by the page. Had it have been the Knight, I would have said it would have been worse. Now, Joanne, is for some reason I've got really bad internet connection at the moment. I do not know why. I don't know why the internet's playing up, but that's probably why I'm sounding a bit underwater. Um, am I clear to you, Andy?
Yeah, perfectly clear to me.
Yeah, it's the internet transferring stuff at the moment. So what there is definitely a changing of your beliefs and your ideas, but it is a gradual change, and it's something that's been happening in the recent past. I would say it's more of a building upon of your beliefs rather than a complete change. I don't think you're going to change to the point where you once believed something and now believe something else. I believe it's more of a building up on current beliefs. So you've got a foundation of belief in something, and this belief system has now been built upon, or it's just starting to be built upon. Moving into your present, we've got the Seven of Cups. Now, I would say this reinforces the belief system because again, cups represent the emotional aspects of life. So these beliefs are beliefs on an emotional level, I would say. Um, Very interesting that it's the seven because, as Andy will tell you, seven is a important number concerning the Fae.
Hmm.
It's a very magical number as well. It's also considered very lucky. But what I would say here is that from these disbeliefs that have recently started in the past, they're now manifesting in your life on an emotional level. So this is what makes me think it is more your beliefs than your ideas. Had they have been your ideas, I would have been expecting the Seven of Swords or a sword card to be there. Because it's a cups card, it's an emotional thing. So I definitely believe it's a building up um, of a belief rather than an idea. The seven's a nice card because you're moving towards the top end of the numbers within that suit of cards. So it's saying that this process has already begun, but now in your present, it is starting to come to fruition. It's not complete yet, but these changes are very strong around you at the moment, and that they are affecting you on the emotional level, but definitely the belief system. Moving into your future, again, you've got another interesting card because you've got the Nine of Wands. Now, the Wands is the physical, so you go in here from the intellectual into the emotional and then onto the physical. So I believe, Karen, that you are going in the future. You are going to expand upon these beliefs from the emotional and then into the physical. So I would say I don't know if you. I know you like your mediumship stuff, but this I'm getting the impression that it's more along the fact of experimenting more into the paganism line of things, because it's then showing that your future is development on the physical level. So that to me would be things like, the pagan knowledge of doing the practical side of things, like learning something like maybe candle magic or, a branch of magic, most definitely within the paganism sphere. But this building up is leading from. It started as an idea, it's moved into the emotional, but in your future, it's definitely moving into the physical. So this says there's going to be some kind of practical applications to what this change in beliefs does. So for me, I think it is more along the paganism lines of you're going to very much get into an element of witchcraft or magic in general, be it crystals, tarot reading, practicing magic, definitely something along them lines. Definitely something along them lines, Karen, but it's definitely on the practical level. Your final outcome is the star, which is a really good card to have there, because what that says is whatever you're hoping for in the final outcome, you're going to get what you wished for. You're going to achieve the goals that you're currently trying to get, because the star represents hopes and wishes. Hopes and witches. It is also what I call the card of self-control, because as you can see, the figure is actually bending over into a pool. What they are doing, they are pouring water into the pool, but they are also pouring water behind them onto the dry land. So I always say that signifies self-control, but that the pool also signifies knowledge, and it is like you're transferring from the pool of knowledge onto the dry ground behind you. And again, this is reinforcing this learning thing. So it's almost like you're fertilising your ideas and your beliefs. But because it's the star and it's fallen on the final outcome, it does signify that whatever you are striving for at the moment, your deepest hopes and wishes are going to come to fruition in the long run, most definitely. Um, Definitely start exploring things along paganism lines more now, Karen, because it's saying as you move into the future, that is the period when you've got to do these things. At the moment, it's all on the emotional level, but it's going to soon move into the physical realm. Definitely an increase of knowledge, because again, that is like I said, it's shown in the star. You're fertilising dry ground with knowledge, as signified by the water being transferred out of the pool of knowledge and poured onto dry ground. And for me, that shows that you're fertilising ideas and stuff like that. You're making the ground more fertile for things to grow. But definitely a really nice reading, Karen. Always nice to finish on the star. But like I say, this reading is basically about growth, and it's a growth in belief systems and practices. But I definitely do believe sometime in the near future, Karen, you're going to start specialising in a practical side of paganism. Which one it is, I can't tell you. I presume you know. I'll get the opinion you know now. I do believe that you're already at the point where you know where you want to specialise. But it's saying in the coming months, this is when you're really going to start putting it into practice and learning new things and doing things on the practical level. But you're definitely going to succeed in it, Karen. So, hope that helped you. Okay, Andy.
Okay.
Thankfully, that appears to still be showing on the screen.
Yep.
I don't know if the audio's improved for everybody or not.
I don't think anybody's mentioned it lately. It might have done. Yeah, next up we've got Tracy B.
Tracy B, Tracy B. You're welcome, Karen. No problem. You're more than welcome. No problem. IDP. Right, Tracy. Past, present, future, final outcome. This one is a right mixed bag here. Right, we'll start with your past. You've got there the Six of Cups. Now, for me, this card, Tracy, always represents the family, and especially the younger members of the family, or their importance to the family. So what I'm getting off this at the moment is something recently has been very significant to you, or very significant to your family as a whole. But I do get the impression that it's younger members of the family that have been the focus of whatever it is and this has recently gone on, Tracy. This is in the past. This already happened. Um, Definitely a very interesting card to have there, because like I say, it's a family card, so It's saying there's something here in the past that is concerning the family, and it's almost like I feel like you've been some kind of advisory figure to somebody, or you have been teaching members of the family something very recently, or the family has definitely learned something either from you or about you very recently that has been very significant. Now, why I say that is because it leads on into the present, the Hierophant. Now, the Hierophant, I always say, is the advisory card. Major Arcana card, so it's saying that your present is actually really, really important at the moment. This is one of the key points of your life because it's come up as the Major Arcana. Now, the Hierophant is almost like a spiritual guide. Now, leading on from that card where I said it's always like a family and advisory thing, normally the Hierophant represents a man, but I think I think the Hierophant in this situation isn't actually representing a person. I think it's representing a situation, Tracy. I think it's saying that at the moment there's whatever advice you've been, whatever's been going on with the family, now is being acted upon. The advice that you've given is now coming into play in the present. Very interesting because the Hierophant also, it's a spiritual type thing, which is what I'm saying. Which is why I'm saying it's a mixed bag, because I can see here there's some kind of decision to be made because it's leading on into the next card, but we'll go on to that in a minute. But there's this thing that's been going on in the recent past with the family is now coming to fruition now, and that is what the Hierophant is signifying to me. Like I say, that is not a person. Normally it is, but I'm just getting the impression that in this situation it's not. It's a situation rather than a person, and it's to do with somebody who's advisory or advice. Very grounded advice, very good advice. The Hierophant never signifies bad advice. He always signifies good advice, and it also signifies leadership as well, Tracy. So I don't know at the moment whether you're still in the process of doing something with the family, but you've very much got your hands on the reins of what's going on, sort of thing, but not in a bossy sort of way. People are, the family members are actually turning to you rather than you being bossy with them. But this situation is really interesting because it's leading into the future onto a really strange card, and this is why I said it was a mixed bag. Because leading into the future, you've got the Two of Swords. Now, the Two of Swords is always a very ambiguous card. It always signifies a decision, as the swords represent the intellectual. The two swords always make me think there's a choice. There's always more than one outcome. And the fact that the woman is blindfolded always tells me that it's a decision that you've got to make, but you've got to make on... you've got to make the decision without having all the facts, or it's not the sort of decision that is easy to... Well, I won't say easy, but it's not an obvious decision to make. But as a result of this advice and stuff that is going on now, there is going to be a decision to be made. And it's got to be made by you. And I can't tell you what the outcome is either way. Again, I'm not getting the fact that I'm not getting the fact it's a negative decision, because sometimes with this card, I'll get the impression that it's either two good decisions, two bad decisions, or a mixture of both. Now, I'm not getting the impression that it's a mixture of both. I think whatever decision you make is going to be a decent enough decision. Yeah, Tracy, very much a leap of faith. Very much so a leap of faith. And again, that ties back to the Hierophant, because the Hierophant is the faith card. So, but I do believe you've got some facts. I don't think it's a pure leap of faith, Tracy, because you've got the Hierophant there that, although represents faith, he also represents good knowledge, common sense and stuff like that. It's very much an advisory card. He's the advisor of the tarot, the Hierophant, as is the High Priestess, but the High Priestess can sometimes have negative elements attached to her, whereas the Hierophant is always very much a good advice card. Had the high priestess been there, I would have said that the decision that's coming up in the future could have had an ambiguous outcome, but because it's the Hierophant, it is definitely not a bad decision either way. Um, Whatever the decision is you make, it leads to your final outcome, which is the Ace of Pentacles. Now, the Ace of Pentacles is the start of the suit, and the Pentacles represent the material realm. So whatever decision you make is definitely going to benefit you on a material level. Now again, I ain't getting the impression it's specifically money, but there is definitely going to be new beginnings in regards to material things. It could be money, it could be the start of a new venture, but it's definitely not like the start of a new path in life to do with ideas or um, beliefs. This is definitely something of the material realm. So it's the beginning of something material, and it is going to arise directly as a result of this decision that you have to make. Like I say, it's not a pure leap of faith, but then again, neither is it um, a fully informed decision. There's got to be elements of both into it, but it does definitely affect the material realm in the final outcome. Now, the ace is always a good one to have because, like I say, it's the beginnings, it's the start of something new. So I never see the Ace of Pentacles as negative, but it is definitely going to have, and I think this is for the entire family, Tracy, not just for you. There's going to be there's going to be a new start of something to do with something material. It could be money, it could be possessions, but there is definitely new beginnings for the family on the material thing. So yes, it's coming out of a cloud, Tracy. It's definitely coming out of a cloud, and see that for me always signifies that it's almost like a gift. It's not given to you sort of thing directly, but it comes to you in more of an indirect manner. It's not a foreseen thing. It's something that it comes as quite a surprise. So I would say this material gain is going to be a surprising benefit, or as a result of this decision, more so than you deliberately starting on a business venture. This decision is going to have, positive material aspects for you, but they are not going to be the full subject of that decision. The decision is not a material decision. It's something to do with advice, Tracy. It's something to do linking back to that advice you've been giving to the family. But it is going to have unexpected material gains attached to it. And that's what your final outcome is saying. So I hope that helped. Again, not a bad one at all. Not a bad one. No negative cards yet, Andy.
No, we're doing well.
I like it when there's no negative cards. So I hope that'll help Tracy. But again, that was a nice final outcome card, Pentacle, the Ace of Pentacles. Um, I'm always a little bit dubious when you get something like the Tower Fall there or whatever, but that was a nice positive one in the final outcome. Right, who's next, Andy?
So next we've got Melanie.
Okay, Melanie. Okay, Melanie. Wow, this one's quite interesting. Right, Melanie, you've got the Two of Wands there. Now, to me, normally the Two of Wands represents a chain. Well, the wands themselves represent the physical plane, as in the body, more so than the material. And I normally say a lot of the times when you get the Two of Wands, it signifies medical issues or health problems. But I'm not getting I'm not getting the feeling off this card at the moment that is the case. What's coming off this card to me at the moment is the guy himself standing in between the two cards, and he's coming across to me as really, really melancholy. So almost regretful. So I would say in the past, and I don't mean distant past. It could be within the last 12 months. There has been some kind of there's been some kind of regret going on there, Melanie. Um, I'm not 100% certain what the regret is or what the melancholy is caused by, but being that it's the ones, I would say it probably is to do with either your health or somebody else's health. But it's not been an issue. I'm not getting the impression, Melanie, that it's been your health. I'm getting the impression it's somebody else's health that has caused this melancholy feeling or this feeling of regret. This card I am definitely getting regret off. Sorry about that Orbs Realm that YouTube's playing up a bit at the moment regarding notifications, but there is definitely a very strong element of melancholy or regret on this Melanie. Very much so. It's the strongest feeling I'm getting off that card. Almost to the point where you are wishing that things had been slightly different. I don't think it's gone into the realms of major depression, but I do think there could have been slight elements of depression going on here. But there's definitely this very much so this element of regret and melancholy. Now coming into your future, this is really interesting because you've got the Chariot. In this respect, I think the Chariot is the intuition I'm getting off the card is it's the choice part of what the Chariot represents. Now the Chariot represents a number of things. It represents controlling a situation or taking a grip of the reins on your life. It can represent good and bad, as is represented by the two sphinxes, so that there is a upheaval in certain things. The sphinxes can also represent choice and decision, and that's why they're black and white, because they're polar opposite types of decision. And I think now you're coming into a period of your life where there's going to be some very important choices to be made. I do believe that this is something you're already aware of. That's the impression I'm getting. That whatever is about to occur, you already know what it is, but there are going to be some very, very major decisions coming up very, very soon for you, Melanie, in regards to what's gone on with that past card, with this regret and melancholy. It has led to the point in your life now where important decisions have got to be made. And again, this is a major arcana card and it's fell in the present, so it's saying this is where the key point in this reading is. This is the keystone to the path you're following at the moment, and this card is definitely saying choice. It's definitely the choice element of the Chariot. Linking back to your melancholy, it is definitely linked with that. So basically, be aware that these choices are coming up soon, but I do believe, Melanie, that you already know what these choices are. You know what these choices are that need to be made, but you do need to make them now. This card is saying do not put them off. Make them now. Now is the time to make them, because otherwise you are going to continue along the same path you have done from your past card. Now moving into your future, you've got the Three of Swords. Now this card is another card I'm never overly fond of, but because it's for some reason turned upside down, it's actually improved it, because if it's the right way round, I normally consider that card to be a card of heartbreak. Now upside down, it's more so disappointment than heartbreak, and I think what this is doing, it's linking back to the Chariot, and it's coming as an advisory for the future. And again, it's reinforcing this need to make these decisions now, because if you don't, it's going to lead to disappointment in your future. It's not going to lead to heartbreak because the card is upside down, so the effect of it has been weakened. Sam left comments on your mobile Spirit Fox video. Oh, sorry, I thought you talked to me then. It's definitely a warning. This is not a prediction, and this is definitely an advisory, Melanie. It's saying that make these decisions now, because if you let them carry on, they're going to lead to disappointment for you in the future. Luckily, and I don't turn any cards upside down when I'm doing live stream readings. I do it on face to face with somebody. It's odd that this card has come out upside down, so that is very significant. That card has somehow turned itself upside down, and I have no idea how it's done it, but it has. So I always run with it. I always say, don't mess with your cards. Read them as they fall, because it's important. And this future card is definitely an advisory saying you need to avoid this disappointment. It's important that you do, because leading on to your final outcome, you've got the Knight of Pentacles. Now, the Knight for me always signifies conflicts, is the best way of putting it, or battle. And I always associate a Knight with battle, but also because all the Knights are mounted, I associate it with movement. And again, you've got a Pentacle card as your final outcome, so it's referring to the material side of life. So it's saying there are going to be battles to come, overall, but they are material battles. But there's movement there that is not negative, it is most definitely positive. Had the Knight been upside down, I would say this movement was detrimental, but because the Knight's the right way round, it's positive. So again, linking back to your Heartbreak card, it's all coming back down from there. Right, okay, Melanie. But this final outcome is most definitely referring to the material side of life. And it's saying that, make the decisions, avoid the disappointment, because it will cause this movement within the material side of your life. Again, I'm not specifically getting money, but I am getting material. It is material. It could be money, but I'm not specifically getting money. But there's definitely going to be an improvement in the material side of life. It could even signify an house move or a change of location for you. And that is what it's saying for the final outcome. But please, 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 whatever this decision is that's coming up now, in the present, make the decisions now, don't put them off, because these last two cards are telling you, the first the third card along the Three of Swords is warning you what will happen if you don't make them, and the final outcome is showing you what will happen if you do. So the last card is showing you there's going to be an improvement, but the third one is saying if you don't, there's going to be disappointment. Okay? So that's all I'm getting off them at the moment, Melanie, but I hope that helps you. But please make the decisions you need to make now, because it's important you make them now, because that's where the Major Arcana card has fallen. So I hope that helps you, Melanie. Okie dokie, I'm going to take a swig of my coffee, Andy, before I do the next one.
No problemo.
I'll have a glug, glug, glug. Who's next?
Jane.
Jane. Oh. It's nothing. It wasn't actually negative, Joanne. It was more of an advisory towards the end of it. It was just saying, make the decisions you need to make, because it's very much an important phase. Right, I'm gonna try and do my fancy shuffle now and flick these together to split them up a bit. Well, I did it half-heartedly. Right. Here we go. Ooh. Okay. This one, Jane, is this reading has literally leapt out the cards at me. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but I'll tell you exactly what I'm getting off these cards. I am getting in your past, and I don't know whether it's recent past or further past, and this leads me to believe it may be a little bit further back than I normally get it, because normally I'll get a sense of how long ago it is, and I'm not off this. There has been some kind of, I'll just tell it like it is. There has been I feel there's been a person in your life who has been very, very dominating or controlling. Now, when I say that, I don't mean, I'm not saying, that they were to the point of abusive. They could have been, but there has definitely been someone there who has used their mental abilities to basically reign over your life. Okay? It's the King of Swords. Now, normally I get the King of Swords as a positive card, but at the moment I'm just sensing it's a neutral card. So for me, that is saying that this is not you, this is somebody else, and it is somebody who, even if they think they had your best interest at heart at the time, they really didn't. They were smothering you on an intellectual level, if you understand what I'm saying. And Jane, I'm definitely getting the impression that this may be, this ain't just a couple of months ago. I think this goes farther back into the past. I ain't saying it's going right back into childhood or anything, but it's definitely going back a number of years. But this person was not a positive influence. And I don't think, I ain't getting the impression, Jane, that they were literally doing, I don't think they were maliciously doing it either. I just think they were the sort of person who could be quite domineering without realising they were domineering. But they did smother you in ways they shouldn't have done. And it shouldn't have happened, if you know what I mean. Okay? But like I say, I ain't saying 100% they did it deliberately, but I cannot say they didn't either. Because like I say, this card is very, very, I'm getting a very, very neutral feeling off this card at the moment, rather than a very positive or a very negative vibe off it. It's a very, very neutral card. But this person was a very clever person, very bright person, somebody who could think on their feet really, really quickly. But they were definitely they definitely got quite a domineering personality, and they did play an important part in your past. Okay. Moving on into your present, Jane, you've got Judgment, and there's something to do with this person that has come through now right into your present, and something relating to this person from the past is now affecting how you're behaving now. And I'm getting the impression that there's a, literally I'm taking I'm taking this, Jane, as you have been very judgmental with it. And when I say judgmental, I ain't saying this is a negative thing, but you've had to make a judgment on somebody, or you're about to make a judgment on somebody, and it is going to be related to this person in the past. I don't know whether it's because whatever this judgment is reminds you of this person from the past, or this judgment you are going to make is because this person has set you this person has moulded your mindset this way. But there is definitely a judgment coming up very, very soon, Jane, very soon. And this person has played a part in it, like I say, either through remembrance or through the way they have conditioned you to think. But it's warning you, this card is saying, do not let this person from the past ruin this decision, this judgment you make now, because leading into the future, you've got the Five of Cups, and the Five of Cups to me always comes across as isolation or loneliness, and you could end up cutting yourself off from something. I don't think this is what's going to happen, Jane. Again, I think this is an advisory card, and it's saying that you've got the best way of me saying these first two cards, Jane, was to learn from the past. Do not make the mistakes that happened in the past, and they were not your mistakes, they were somebody else's mistakes. But what it's saying is you could make the mistake that they made in the past to someone else, and if you do, you are going to end up isolating yourself from them in the future, and it's going to be a decision you regret if you make the wrong decision. This is definitely an advisory reading all the way through, Jane. Most definitely. Um, just be very, very careful because it will isolate you from the person or the situation if you treat the situation like this person from the past would have done. And I do know when you meet people like that in the past, they do condition you to think in certain ways, and it's saying break away from that thinking, Jane, because you'll make the wrong decision in the present and isolate yourself from a situation. Your final outcome again is the King of Pentacles, which again is a good one because for me, the King of any suit always signifies conquest and victory. So what it is saying is, the final outcome of this, if you walk the right path and you learn from your past, you're gonna break free from it, and this situation can be avoided. And that is what the King is telling me, because the King is a victory card. It always is. It is the ultimate card of any suit. Again, it's the Pentacles, which is material, but I really do not think the suit means anything in this one, Jane. It is more the King that is jumping out on me than the actual suit itself. So what that is telling me is victory is yours for the taking, as long as you learn from the past. You can break away from what you've been learned, you can break away from past situations, and you can avoid making the mistakes that other people made to you in the past. And that's about all I'm getting off that, Jane. But that was a very that reading jumped out at me as soon as I put the cards down. Right the way from the King up to right from the King of Swords up to the King of Pentacles, because it shifted from a domineering person at the beginning to you conquering and being victorious at the end, as represented by the King of Pentacles. So it is literally a complete reversal of attitude there, most definitely. But that other person at the beginning, the King of Swords, is definitely a somebody else that has influenced you. But it's warning you, just be very careful of the decisions you make right now, because that is your major arcana card, and that is where that is the linchpin of this reading. Okay, so that's where you've got to keep your close eye on not judging a person or a situation wrongly by being influenced by this person from the past. And I ain't even saying you're still in touch with this, but you may not be in touch with this person, but their mindset has somehow stuck with you, Jane, and that is what you've got to break away from. But I hope that helped. I hope that helped, Jane. Okie dokie.
Right, this one's going to be an interesting reading.
Right, okay.
Because it's for none other than Mr. Wipey. And I suppose Sam as well.
We're doing a reading for Mr. Wipey.
And I suppose Sam ties into reading somewhere.
Okay.
No, it's really for Sam.
Right, Sam. Sam, you get almost the same cards come out every time. Right, past, present, future, final outcome. Right, Sam. Interesting one. And this is going to sound really cliche, because I know, you mention this a lot, but excuse me. You've got the Eight of Wands there, and the Wands, like I say, always represent health, and they're pointing down for me. And what I'm getting out of that is that, a decline in health in the past has been playing an important part in the recent past. And I know this anyway, but this is what this card is basically saying, that in the past, your health has gone down gradually in the past, and has played a very significant part in what you've been doing lately. And that I know this because you've told me this anyway. But that is basically what that card is saying to me, Sam. So I don't really want to stay on that one very long because it's very self-evident to me what it's representing. The ones always represent the physical, the body, more so than the material. So it is definitely showing a decline downwards that has happened in the past. That has been, yeah. I'll explain. Andy will explain who Mr. YP is in a bit. Uh, but it is definitely showing that in the past, Sam, a decline in health has been extremely significant for you. You know, and but like I say, I know this about you anyway. But that is definitely what that card's showing. The good news is, moving into the present, you've got the Fool. Everybody's getting major arcana cards, Andy, in the present at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, the Fool is the very first card of the tarot, and it signifies new beginnings, new journeys, and new undertakings. So what that's saying to me is that is changing, Sam. Health is gonna change, and you're gonna start out on a new journey. As you can see, the Fool is blindly walking off the edge of a cliff, but the little dog is standing behind him barking. So that signifies that it's not you're not going to plunge over the cliff. The dog is going to warn you that it's going to happen. But the most significant representation of the Fool, when it's the right way around, signifies the start of a new path in life or the start of a new journey. So that is telling me, Sam, that health is definitely going to improve. I ain't saying you're going to be fit as a fiddle or anything, but it is definitely going to get to the point where it's going to make an impact on your life and things are going to change. You're definitely just about to enter into this period of change, and this movement is about to start. This new journey is about to. You're about to undergo this new journey. Quite an exciting time in your life as well, because it's got very, very significant things on the next card which are quite interesting. Um, it's all, I'm almost getting the feeling, Sam, that it's a journey of self-discovery. Very much a journey of self-discovery, because it leads into your future card, which is the High Priestess. Now, the High Priestess is a very, very funny card because she has so many different meanings, but her main meaning is a keeper of occult knowledge. She can also be a keeper of secrets, or someone who is working against you by keeping secrets. But in this respect, I am getting the keeper of occult knowledge is the thing that's coming off the card I'm in, because it's linking back to the Fool. It's saying that this is a journey that you're about to embark on. Now, I know you're a Christian, Sam, but what I'm saying is I can see you going down the lines of looking more into occult matters that normally Christian people wouldn't. I'm not going to say you're going to adopt them, or I ain't saying you're suddenly going to turn into a witch, but I think you are going to go down a pathway now where you're going to delve really deep into the occult sort of thing, and into occult knowledge more so than occult practice. So I can see the occult research becoming really, really important to you in the coming months. Like I say, you're not going to suddenly turn from a Christian into a pagan, but that area of knowledge within the paranormal is going to become important to you, Sam. And she does represent the keeper of hidden occult knowledge, and that is what you're going to start looking more into. I know you've recently started becoming interested in the elemental side of things, but I get the impression, Sam, it's going to go deeper than just the elemental. I do genuinely believe that you're going to look more into witchcraft and stuff like that, maybe as something to do for your channels. Like I said, I don't think you're going to start practicing it because I ain't getting that thing off, but I think you're going to get yourself a good grounding knowledge in it so that you can talk about it, sort of thing, and I think you may start bringing more of the occult into what you do. And that is what's signified by that Fool about starting on an entirely new path in life. And it is definitely leading to an occult slant because of it being the High Priestess. Very interesting that those two are linked together, and the fact that they are both major arcana cards. So present and future are the key elements of your reading at the moment. But that thing about occult knowledge is really interesting when it stands next to the Fool, because, like I say, the Fool is embarking on a new journey or a new phase in your life, and he's linking directly to occult knowledge. So I would say that you're gonna start reading the witchcraft books, Sam, and stuff like that is going to become more of an interest to you in the future.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, but I ain't going to say you're going to suddenly turn into a pagan or anything. You may do, but you're definitely going to be finding out about it. Most definitely, it's going to become an interest. Now, your final outcome is the Page of Cups. Now, the Page of Cups is the beginning of a new again. It's a movement card, not quite so strong as the Knight. So, what I would say is you're going to get a lot of satisfaction from it, Sam. Um, I can see you skewing your beliefs a little bit, so I can see that it's going to end up you're going to be one of these people who got the toes dipped in both Christianity and in pagan sort of things, and you're gonna find your balance in that. You're gonna find an emotional level on it. You're not going to go too deep into it, but you're going to go into it enough where certain beliefs are going to rub off on you, Sam. Most definitely, and that's what it's showing as on your final outcome with your Page of Cups, because it's showing the start, the birth of a new emotional state. So to me, I would say some of what you read or research upon is basically going to stick. Whether you go full down the pagan line, I do not know. I cannot say one way or the other, but I can definitely say that certain elements of it will actually change your belief system and will affect you on the emotional levels, so that you will adopt parts of it in. So you're not going to you're not going to have a fully Christian belief system, but there again, I can't see you becoming a full-blown pagan overnight either. But it's all for the benefit, Sam, because you're going to grow from this. You're definitely going to grow from this, and that is what the Fool signifies of starting out on a new journey in life. It's all for the positive. So just hang in there with Mr. YP and just see what comes up. Okay then. Hope that helped. Who's next, Andy?
Mr. Wipe is a magical being.
He is. Can you just babble a second while I quickly run to the loo, because I'm peeing
I know
myself.
it is. So
Thank you.
Joanne says, right, can we explain Mr. Wipey? So, on last live stream that we did, Brett, Sam, and myself, she introduces to her a new friend that she's got living on a shelf, and it was a bog roll with a face put on it, and his name is Mr. Wipey, and it is all in hysterics. Absolutely brilliant. If you go and look on Sam's channel, you get to see a little snippet that she put up about it. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, stitches. So yeah, I think we've got a few slots left. I think we have like 2. If anybody would like a card reading tonight, just ask away. Sam's mascot, yeah, definitely Stephen. That were brilliant.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Mr. YP will put an appearance in later. It's going to be interesting when it runs out of newspaper and Mr. Whitey's got to die.
Yeah.
No problem, Obdrell.
Next up, we've got Stephen.
Right, Stephen. Oh, that card's stuck. Oh, I did that. I thought there was 2 cards stuck together then. Oh, yeah. Oh, another interesting one. Right, Stephen. What's interesting about your reading is you've actually got three major arcana cards out of four, which is very, very interesting because it's not bad actually, Stephen. It's not bad at all. Um, but when you get a large proportion of major arcana cards, it does signify it's an extremely important phase of your life going on. If there'd have been four, then it would have been, this would signify it was a life changing period, but very significant at the moment. Right, in your past cards, you've got the Chariot. Now, what I'm getting with the Chariot is straight away I got off that card of pulling in different directions. If you look at the two Sphinxes at the bottom, the black and the white one, they are going what they are basically pulling in slightly different directions. And I think recently there's been something going on in the past that's felt like it's been pulling you in different directions. Very interesting because it's been something that you've managed to keep under control, but it has been a bit of a struggle. It's definitely indicating to me struggle here. That's what I'm getting off the Chariot. It's this pulling apart sort of thing. Um, I don't know exactly what the situation is, but it has been not difficult, but it's been a bit of a ride, as represented by the Chariot. Definitely a little bit of turmoil there, nothing major, but there's definitely been something going on recently in your life that has been pulling you in different directions. And I get the impression it surrounds people, Stephen, rather than situations. Don't know why. That's just what popped into my head when I was looking at the card. I do get the impression that it's probably more people-based than situation. Obviously, it's a situation, but I think there's people involved in the situation, if you know what I mean. And they've definitely been pulling you in different directions. And like I say, I don't get it to the extent that it's an extreme tugging, but there has been differences there of people pulling you in maybe opposite ways. But because you've got the guy in the Chariot on the reins, it does show controlling the journey. So basically, you have managed to keep the situation under control. Nothing's, nothing chaotic has happened regarding this situation, but the situation itself has been significant recently with this pulling. I'm just getting just getting the sense of pulling apart with this card. Things moving in various directions, which is always an odd one. There's definitely that pulling there, but you have kept an handle on it. And I don't think you could have dealt with it any other way because, as it shows in the card, the Sphinxes are two independent animals with minds of their own. And that is why I always say with situations concerning the Chariot where you get this pulling, it's never something that you've had any real control over. Other people have been involved in, but it's been nothing major, Stephen. But it's just been it's been significant enough to crop up in the cards to say it's something that's been going on recently. This pulling apart of something, right? Leading into the present, you've got the Four of Swords. Now, the Four of Swords for me is always it's one of what I call the introspection cards, and I think whatever's been going on with this situation, you've been doing a lot of thinking about it lately on your own. I think there's been a lot recently. There's been a lot of them times where you've just sat there and sort of gone into yourself and thought about things that have been going on. Definitely regarding this situation, I'm definitely getting introspection off this card, Stephen. Self-analysis, just sitting quietly and thinking about things. And personally, I think this has been the best thing for you to do. Um, Rather than flying off the handle or anything like that, you've just sat back, calmly thought about things. But this is how you are at the moment, Stephen. There's very much this period of where you're sitting quiet and thinking about things and finding your own little path and learning from things of the past. And I do believe that the past at the moment, for some reason, is very significant to you. There's something that's gone on in the past concerning the Chariot that is causing this introspection. That's causing this thing for you to sit there, just sit there on your own and just think. And that is definitely what I'm getting off that four of Swords. But it's definitely linking back to that Chariot. But it's saying, now is the time for introspection. Sit back, have a good think about things, you know. Just go with the flow of life, basically, is what that's saying. Right. Now, into the future, this is where it gets interesting because you've got the Empress. Now, the Empress is all things fertility, nature, and birth. So for me, it is saying that there is up in the future, as a result of this period of introspection, there's going to be something new born of it, Stephen. There's definitely going to be a seed that's been planted during this time of thinking that's going to germinate and start to grow in the future. Again, the Empress signifies things around the paranormal and the occult. So I would say, like Sam, there is going to be some kind of branch in there within the paranormal itself. But it's also to do with you. I think it's to do with general life with you as well, Stephen. Um, could also signify that a prominent female is gonna come into your life sometime in the near future. Somebody who you're gonna consider as a good friend, or I won't say mother figure because I find that a bit too strong, but a very good female influence. And I think coming at some point coming up, a female influence is what you're gonna need to help you carry on with this birth of ideas. It's definitely a birth of ideas, Stephen, because it's linking onwards from the Four of Swords and the introspection sort of thing. So there's a seed germinating at the moment with all this thinking. All this withdrawing in yourself at the moment is happening for a reason. And it's to say that it's a birth of something new to come. Something's going to flourish as a result of you taking the time now to sit back quietly and think. But the Empress is definitely showing that. Again, she's another major arcana card, so it does signify that this event is going to be, of importance in your life. But it's definitely a germination, fertility, new growth. It's not growth of something that already exists. It is most definitely new growth. Possibly a renewal as well of yourself. I think there's definitely better times ahead, Stephen, which links into your final outcome card, which is the Wheel of Fate. Again, another major arcana card, the third one. Now, I always love the Wheel of Fate dropping in the final outcome if it's the right way round, which it is. The card is not upside down, it's the right way round, so it is indicating that there is going to be a significant change of fortune for you from here on, Stephen. Um, and anything negative that you felt surrounding you at the moment, it's all going to go away. Fortunes are changing and the wheel is turning, and you're basically on the ascendancy on the wheel. I always say if the card's upside down, it means the wheel is in its descendancy. If it's the right way round, you're on the ascendant. So it's definitely an upward movement of fortune, fate and fortune. So what it is saying, Stephen, is definitely a significant time for you in terms of fortune change. And when I say fortune, people always straight away think money, but I think for you it's going to be more on a personal and spiritual level where this change in fortune is going to come. I think there's going to be a lot more peace of mind for you, Stephen, and the fact you've got three major arcana cards tells me it's going to be a very significant change because you got the three majors there. Most definitely a significant change. But again, Stephen, really nice reading. One of the best final cards to have. I've got to be honest. I always like I always love it when the big positive cards drop there. Definitely a promising reading, Stephen. But like I say, a lot of this reading is personally to you rather than situations. It's more about your personal development than situational development. I think you're definitely on a learning phase at the moment, but it's a self-governed learning phase. Okay, but definitely a change of fortune for you. Really good reading, Stephen. Hope that helped. Okie dokie. Are you still alive, Andy?
I'm still alive.
Okay, who's next?
Up next is Becky.
Becky.
Ah.
Um, I can foresee tea making in the future.
Oh dear.
Oh, here we go again. Andy, she always gets this. Oh, that's an improvement.
Oh,
Ooh, and a warning for the final outcome. Right, okay. Right, now your first card, Becky, which is your past card, which is your, oh, excuse me, your Six of Pentacles. Now, I always say that because it's on the material and you've got the two people kneeling in front of the other ones. This always, with me, Andy, comes into skills, like crafts and work type things.
yeah.
So, for me, I was, it's hard for Becky because I know a lot of what's going on with her. But it's definitely showing that recently there's been a lot of increase financially through craft, or the ideas for financial improvement to do with arts and crafts is definitely showing recently. So that has been significant. I ain't saying she's reaped the rewards of it yet, but the ideas are there. The
Hmm.
ideas are definitely there's skills there that from the past that are now budding into ideas. I won't really touch on that one very much because I know that one. Now this one, Andy, is the one that's peeing me off because this is the one she always gets. Um, Again, she's hiding a light under a bushel,
Yep.
and it's here again. And I don't know what it is, Andy. I don't know what is hiding under a bushel, but it is definitely um, of the intellectual thing again. So it's beliefs and ideas. And what
Okay.
that is saying to me is there is something there that there's conflict on the intellectual level, and she's not making full use of something, and I don't know why. And it's still there now in the present. Um, there's some kind of battle of ideas going on there. Definitely conflict on the intellectual level, but it's almost like it's stubborn. It's coming across, Andy, as stubbornness rather than needing to happen.
Right.
That is what I'm getting. It is almost like as kicking against doing something which she knows she should do.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Do you understand that? Or does Becky
I do. Yeah.
understand that?
Probably.
But is definitely kicking against it and as shouldn't do. Now I'm going to piss her off because in the
Mm.
future she's got the
Do it.
Three of Cups, which tells me it's going to end. And there's going to be a lot of emotional celebration here. Um, and there's something to do with three and the emotions. Okay, it's
Okay.
coming up in the future, but it's definitely a celebration, and the one element of that card is saying to me that whatever it is she's kicking against on the intellectual level finally comes to an end to the satisfaction of everybody. But there is
Right.
something to do with the number three here, and it's to do on an emotional level. So it's number three. I know what everybody's thinking here.
What they're thinking.
You know, but it's like emotion and love and three.
Oh.
Okay,
Oh.
that's what I'm getting, Andy. All right, I don't want to say too much,
That's very strange. I'll talk to you after the stream about
but
something.
I'm getting something along them lines. Okay,
Okay.
that is what that card's saying, and I want to be very, 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 very careful here because it's also your final card as well as referencing it.
Oh, okay.
There's three elements tied into one heart. Okay.
Right.
Um, and to me, I've got to be careful what I say here.
No,
Um,
just say it. Just say it.
I can see there's going to be a third person within a relationship that's going to become very important, and it's going to tie all three people together, and that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Oh dear. Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
But that is coming through particularly strong in the last two cards. Um,
Right.
but that last one is really interesting because it's common purpose. It's going to be a perfectly balanced thing.
Yeah.
Definitely a purpose. I'm not getting the art break off it, Andy. I'm getting the three swords are more significant than the art, and that is
Okay.
why the number three twice is there twice, three and three, and one is to do with them. Well, they're both to do with emotion. They've both got emotion connected to them. But
Yeah.
that last one is telling. It shows the three swords are symmetrical through the heart.
Right.
So it is a three-way emotional relationship that's equally balanced, if you know what I mean. Okay?
Yeah. Cool.
But I was just going to be very
Interesting.
careful how I worded that one. But
That's very interesting.
I'll talk to you about it later.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Okay.
will.
Right, who's next?
Oh, next we've got Orb's Realm.
I thought you said Odd Realm then. I was going to say,
Oh,
who's Odd Realm? Orb's Realm.
Orb's Realm.
That's a very unfortunate thing to call yourself. Right, I'm splitting these, so hopefully we'll get... Okay, Orb's Realm. No major arcana in this. What? So we've got to read him without any major arcana in. Right.
Wow.
Your past is the Knight of Swords. Orb's Realm. What that is saying to me is there has been some kind of intellectual battle going on around you at the moment, because the knights, like I say, always signify movement and conflict and journeys, and because it's the swords, it's on the intellectual plane. So what I'm getting off this card is there has been some kind of intellectual battle going on with you recently, and I think it's been an internal thing. I don't think it's been a battle of wills with somebody else. I just think that recently you've had a lot of different ideas in your head that have been battling with one another for supremacy. Very interesting card because it is most definitely a self battle. Um, Brendan, okay, Brendan. There's definitely been some kind of internal battle going on here on the intellectual level, and I don't know whether beliefs have been clashing with one another, or you've maybe been tossing different belief ideas and ideas around in your head, and they've just all been swirling around, and you've been sifting through them. But this is something you've been doing recently, and it's been significant to you. Okay. Um, very strange card because I'm just getting. When I say battle, I'm not getting turmoil off it. It's just swirly movement is what I'm getting. So hang on a sec. Who the hell would be ringing me on a private number at 10:30 at night? I'm definitely getting this intellectual movement, all my chaotic thoughts and stuff like that, but not in a negative way. Um, Brendan, it's more like a churning of ideas. That's what I'm getting. Oh, they're ringing again. They need to piss off. Hang on. If they ring me again, I should just turn it off. Most definitely this swirling of ideas, but that's as much as I'm getting off that one. Now moving into your present, this is really interesting because you've got the Queen of Wands. Now the queens normally signify a female. Um, oh, it's my mate Brandon the Pillock. He's just messaged me. Ending phone call, Pillock. There is something coming up in your present, Brendan. That is to do with a female who is very down to earth, and she's gonna play a significant role in whatever you're doing. Very, like I say, the ones always when they signify people, the ones always signify very down to earth, grounded people with a lot of common sense. Okay, and I can see this woman as being some kind of. Um, I wouldn't say partner, but like somebody to bounce like these ideas off that have been churning around in your head, almost like an advisor or a sounding board. And this woman is about to become very significant to do with these ideas and stuff. Very very significant woman, but she's a woman who's very down to earth, very common sense woman. Um, Had she been a Queen of Swords, I would have said she'd have been a big thinker. The Queen of Cups would have been an emotional woman. And the Pentacles would have been I always say, not particularly a gold digger, but they can signify gold diggers. But the wands always signify a very down to earth, practical, common sense type woman. But I can see her becoming some kind of sounding board for these ideas you've got, Brendan, or she is going to be a source of ideas for you. But there is definitely some kind of working relationship going off here, I can see about to happen. So keep an eye out for that one. Right, now moving into the future, you've got the Eight of Cups. Now what's drawing me on that card at the moment is that guy walking off into the distance. So to me, what this is saying is whatever you and this woman do together, you are going to walk away from a lot of your current beliefs, because the cups, but it's more of your emotional beliefs than your spiritual beliefs. They are, you're going to walk away from a lot of what you currently ground yourself with emotionally. It's saying that in the future there's going to be a total change of heart over something, and you're going to walk away from things that you have held extremely dear up until this point. You're going to realise through this woman and through what you've been thinking about that it's time to change and move on. So this woman is going to set you on a journey of an emotional nature. Okay? The other thing I'm seeing there is the moon. The moon's really coming out of that card at the moment, looking down at you. Now the moon again is a very interesting occult symbol. So there are some kind of spiritual elements involved here, Brendan, but they're not as significant as the emotional ones. But there's definitely spiritual elements to this journey. But the basis and the foundation of them is definitely going to be emotional. And it is all going to be down to what you and this woman do together coming up now. But this is your future card. Now your final outcome is really interesting because you got the Four of Pentacles. And for me this is ultimate balance on the material level. But again, I don't think it's referring to the material more so of the card. It's more about the balance that you've got your feet. You've got the two under your feet. You've got the one over your heart, and you've got the one over your head. And for me, it says you're going to reach a point through this woman of being extremely balanced in your outlook. Mind, body. What that card said to me is mind, body, and spirit are going to be working as one. There's going to be that perfect balance there, as a result of this emotional, of this change in an emotional foundation you suddenly believe in. You're going to walk away from it, but you're going to get to a point where mind, body, and spirit are all in perfect harmony, because that is what your final outcome is saying. Your final outcome card is saying perfect balance, literally perfect balance. That is the final outcome of what those first three cards are saying. So I hope that helps your orbs realm, but that is definitely what the cards are saying there. There's been this mixing up of ideas. This woman is going to come into the picture. If she ain't already in the picture, she could be because she's present. She's going to be some kind of sounding board and springboard for ideas. She's going to set you on a path of something new on an emotional level, but also with spiritual elements to it. But ultimately it's going to lead to perfect balance for you. And that's the spread in a nutshell. So I hope that helped. Okay, you're welcome, Orbsroll. No problem. Who's next, Andy?
That's it on
Oh, is
list
that
for
it?
tonight.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good then. We've got a nice early finish. Well, I say early finish. It's what, about 10:30, is it? Something like that. Nearly 10:30, yeah. So we're going an
Yeah,
hour and a
about
half. So not bad. So what we'll do, I'll just pull Sam into the conversation, and then we'll change screens. So do you want to babble for a few seconds, Andy, while I try and grab Sam?
babble, 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 babble. You asked for it.
Yeah, I know. Right, I'm calling Sam at the moment. We've just got to wait for her to come in.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm just checking me screen's still working. I'll let you know when Sam joins in, and then I'll switch the stream over.
Okie dokie.
Sam, we're calling you. I hope you're still there. After Sam.
Oh dear.
You're welcome,
Oh,
Brendan.
I'm
You're more
absolutely
than welcome.
knackered tonight.
Yeah, Becky's reading was really interesting, Andy, but I'll talk to you about that in more detail later.
You'll be gobsmacked when
Right, okay.
we go into detail.
Okay, but there was something very interesting going on there.
Yeah.
Is Sam still here, or has he fell asleep?
Might be having a bit of private time with Mr. Wipey.
Yeah, might be having fun with Mr. White. Well, as soon as Sam comes into the stream, I'll ring her and then we'll pull her in. Until this point, it's just me and you, Andy. Is there anything you want to discuss at the moment?
I don't know.
I don't know.
No. I'm just open to open to any discussion at all.
Right. Is there anything anybody wants to particularly talk about concerning the paranormal? I think one of the things I'd like to touch on, Andy, is pareidolia.
Okay, doke.
Because I put that little pareidolia video out the other day.
You did, yeah.
And I think it's something we could discuss. Because I think at the moment, there's a lot of pareidolia out in the paranormal community at the moment. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I've got some strange thoughts on the topic as well. So there's going to be like an alternative viewpoint as well. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. I do think lately that a lot of people are putting stuff out there and just blindly accepting that it's pareidolia. I don't know how many of you know. Well, basically, what pareidolia is the mind's ability to identify. You're welcome, Deborah. It's the mind's ability to see patterns and pictures in random images or noises or whatever. I don't know why my voice is echoing. It shouldn't be. Let me just check the... No, I'm on mute. Are you on mute, Andy?
Yeah. Becky says it's fine for wear headphones.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know.
There was a study done recently on pareidolia that basically, and it don't look good for us lots, but they basically found that people who believed in the paranormal are actually more prone to be susceptible to pareidolia. Now, I was having a discussion with another channel a couple of days ago on their page about it, and I was saying to people what we've got to realise and what we've got to accept as paranormal investigators and paranormal channels is we've got to be very careful what we put out there, because people who watch our channels are specifically looking or expecting anything shown to them to be paranormal. And like I said to this other channel, you could put an image out and people would straight away be looking or expecting something paranormal to be in it, even if there wasn't. So I could show somebody a picture of a tree, a group of trees, and say, what do you think? What can you see in this picture? And straight away, because they know I'm a paranormal channel, they would be expecting there was something paranormal hidden in that picture. So the mind would subconsciously start seeing faces in trees and stuff like that. So this is what we have got to be careful of. Right, Andy, what were you going to say about your interesting little...
Well, it's totally right. Pareidolia sort of explanation what you just did, and I sort of do look at that from a logical viewpoint as well, and totally understand what it is. Now, it's when things get taken out of context a little bit. It bothers me.
Yeah.
You know, like, so if somebody has a rather busy image and they're plucking figures out and stuff like that or whatever, it can be natural matrix in a picture. It can be, you know, where the background is shaped to make a figure look like it's a figure. But for me, you've got to properly look at it and know the difference.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, I've got some images where you'll see a little face peeking between two leaves or whatever. And I'll say, yeah, it looks like a face. I can't guarantee it's anything real.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, and it's like when you showed your pictures in your video, you know, you'll get faces in trees and stuff in parks.
Yeah.
And I like that sort of stuff, but you've got to be honest on what it is.
Yeah.
It is nature forming, and it looks like a face, and that's cool. I love them. You know, I think they can make rather nice artistic photos. You know.
Yeah.
But in the realms of what we do, there is a secret little thing, right? And it's only in small circles that
You're
believe.
in now, Sam, by the way.
Thank you.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, there's a secret little thing that believe that the pareidolia thing is nothing to fear so long as you use it correctly.
Yeah.
It can actually be used as a tool, especially with the fae, not to see things that are not there, but to open up your imagination. You know, to go back to a childlike state in your head, an innocent state, and go, oh yeah, I can see that face. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because they are so sort of camouflaging, you know. But you've got to understand that you're seeing the right thing and not just that.
Yeah.
And I think there's like an outlook you've got to have if you're using it that's logical, you know.
See, I'm of the opinion, like I said to you the other day, if you're going to put a picture up on any paranormal page or in any paranormal channel, you have got to include the full image of where you got that thing from.
Context is a big deal. Yeah.
The tendency nowadays is for people to zoom in on the little bit they want you to look at and not show you the rest of it. So it may look like some creepy little goblin or whatever sitting behind a tree or sitting on a log, but when you zoom out the full picture, it's a Coke can in a park. You know what I'm saying? It's,
yeah.
You know, you've got to provide the context of where you have got that image from, and you know, and I do believe there are people out there who are deliberately using pareidolia to promote things as proof when they know they're not.
Yeah, that's where, you know, harsh bit about it all comes in. It's when they're passing it off as well. It could be. It's what, and I've seen, you know, comments like it's whatever you believe. It's personal belief if it's real, but is it?
Yeah.
You know, is it?
See, this is another thing I discussed, Andy. I said you can. Yes, we have got to go on belief, but you can only take personal belief so far.
So far. Yeah.
You know, you've got to hit a point where either the rational explanation or common sense has got to override personal belief.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to. What's your opinion on pareidolia, Sam?
Well, belief is not going to be a yes or no answer, like, and the yes or no answer is the thing that we're looking for. You know.
Yeah.
Well, pareidolia can be. It has been used to get audience excited, and some teams actually use it and they know fine rightly what it is.
Yeah.
You know, they're looking at knots in wood in a door and saying that looks like a demon, guys. You know, it just, it's getting the audience excited. A lot of the time, the viewer, in a lot of these cases, are just the viewers. You know, they don't have that experience, so they're going to get excited by, you know, two knots on a door and a bit of a curved shape in the grain of wood. You know, yes, very very interesting, but it doesn't prove anything. You know.
Yeah. You know,
I,
we're all susceptible to it. You know, I've seen pictures and thought, oh God, that's a such and such. But it's, you know, when you
yeah,
see the full
yeah.
picture and you've got the context of what it is, you can then tell. And I do believe some people do genuinely put stuff out there, genuinely believing it is what they think it is, Andy. I
Yeah.
ain't saying everybody uses pareidolia deliberately to deceive, but there is a significant increase lately in the paranormal community to
Oh yeah, I
deliberately
agree.
use pareidolia as a way of providing proof they know actually isn't true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry. Go on ahead, Andy.
Go on,
Sorry.
Andy.
yeah, and as well just mentioned earlier, and I think the presentation of what you have got speaks volumes for people that's presenting it. So
Yeah.
if it is a cropped down little blurry image or whatever, can it be really taken seriously? You've got to see the whole thing. We're all researchers, analysts, all bundled in
Hmm.
investigators into one thing, and you've got to have that mindset to be able to put. If somebody come to me and says, "Can you provide me your pictures without the extra blown up bit
Yeah.
overlaid?"
Yeah.
I can quite easily say yes.
Hmm.
I have got them all waiting for anybody to analyze.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing, innit?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, see, I've got a Canon DSLR I take with me, a D1200, and
yeah,
that is actually set to take JPEG and RAW files. It takes
oh
it
yeah,
take
yeah, yeah,
it takes two files of the same picture, and that is
yeah.
why it's deliberately set to that. So if ever I do capture anything, I have got that raw file there that anybody is free to look at and analyze.
That's it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
What were you going to say, Sam?
Um. Do you know that there has been an upturn, and experimenting is very very good, but people have to be very very careful when they're experimenting with smoke.
Right.
Do you know? There's a group that work with me, and they bought a smoke machine,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't use anything else with it.
Right.
Now, there is a possibility maybe you could see something in the smoke that could be very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is, pareidolia can get in the way in those occasions as well.
Right.
Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, it is a theory and it is an experimental piece of equipment. Um, I just say, be careful with those.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with any zoomed in imaging.
Yeah. See, for me, that is all. That is always my. Hi, Chris. That is always my first argument. I had somebody send me a picture, show me a picture the other day, and I said, "Why is there a filter applied over?" And it was literally dots. A filter had been applied over the top of this. What's it? And they themselves who sent me the picture said, "Yeah, I don't know why that's been done." And I said, I can't say to you what is in that picture because it's got that filter applied over it. You know, if you're gonna, I've got no problems with close-ups. Like if you look at that one I did on what famous conceptions, that video I did a couple of weeks ago. Was it last week, Andy, or the week before?
Yeah, yeah. Week before, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Andy had done all close-up shots of his, but they were all overlaid over the original image with an arrow, with an indication of where it was in that picture, so you could verify that image had not been tampered with in any way, shape, or form, and you could see the context of where it was.
Yeah. Yeah, very often when you do get image evidence, it is zoomed in, a zoomed in photograph, and it's good to have that, but
Hmm.
it's good to have the ordinary, no mess with photograph as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can see the environment around it as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is important, to keep them in context. I've got no problem with looking at anybody's pictures and if they say, oh, it's such and such and such and such. But the other thing I like people to do is actually show you the picture and not tell you what you're supposed to be seeing. Because this is another thing you've got to be very, very careful with pareidolia, is if you tell people what they are supposed to be seeing in that picture, the subconscious will then kick in and look for it.
Yeah.
Karen says, I agree. I do close-up shots of screenshots, but I would never filter it or mess with the real picture if it wasn't worth it. Exactly, Karen, but what you need to do when you do close-ups of screenshots is you also need to include the full screen at the same time so that you've got something to compare it to rather than just a close-up itself, because then you've got the context of where that particular close-up came from. Sammy would never tamper with toilet rolls, lol. Orbs Realm says, all I ever do is slow motion, but next to original, no filters, no effects, just raw. Exactly, Orbs Realm. To be honest with you, I think sometimes slow motion is some of the best stuff you can use.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way you can see, any sort of tampering shows up a lot clearer, believe it or not, in slow motion.
It does.
I've seen some brilliant evidence that's been presented in slow, but like you say, it's also been shown at normal speed as well. Mm-hmm. I've got no problems with slow. I've got no problems with people's close-ups, as long as they are prepared, to show me the full picture that they've taken it from. And the context there, and also they are prepared to accept that it might not be what they think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think speed would not be considered as tampering with the evidence. Filters would be.
Mm-hmm.
Slowing something down is only slowing something down.
You're not altering the image itself. You're just altering.
You're
just altering the speed that the frames are shown. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, and zooming in and out isn't altering the image as such either. But if you do zoom it in and out, make sure the original is shown as well.
Yeah.
Orbsram
says, and remember, pixelization breaks up images. And Selena says, I do. Pixelated portraits, love it.
Yeah, with slowing things down, I find that the more I slow it down, with me, it's an awful lot of the time it's audio evidence,
mm-hmm.
and if you slow it down too much, you start to warp that sound. Yeah. So there's only a certain amount you can push it,
Mm-hmm. Right. Here's a question for the two of you then. Do you think modern day digital technology has helped to reduce pareidolia, or do you think it's helped to increase pareidolia? Andy?
I would say probably increase.
Okay. Why would you say that?
Yeah, just because of the fact that we end... because it's easier to tamper with, and
and when Andy's given his excuse, can you give yours, Sam? Because I've just got to nip into the kitchen.
Well, you've got pareidolia and faking. If we look at the pareidolia side, the better quality camera you have, the better. When you think of it that way, Do you have to think about it in the pareidolia sense? Because he asked, about the pareidolia. Yes, digital imaging can be faked.
It's a very strange situation, isn't it?
Yeah. You know?
I don't think it's either one of them situations and topics that's ever going to be. It's a bit like this whole virus stuff with people not listening and, you know, still doing whatever they're doing, spreading it. It's like that sort of thing for me. It's like, you know, as much as you'll put it out there to just, you know, try and recognise what's happening in some imagery and stuff.
Yeah.
It's never going to be fully kicked away and looked at it for what it properly is.
Now I haven't fallen out with Alexa that she don't turn the kitchen light on. That's one of them I do actually do with a switch. For now. Till I get another bulb.
You see, I'm not adverse, like Sam brought up the old smoke thing, I'm not adverse to doing some sort of element, you know, basically divination and scrying or whatever. You know, I'm quite... I used to be right against water, ITC.
Yeah, see, I've tried water scrying, I'm absolutely useless at it.
Yeah, I think what I'd be looking at with that, rather than just open for, like doing it, taking a burst of 20 images, open for text, is be actually live asking for certain images to be shown and seeing if it shows.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's been my sort of cup of tea with that.
See, I've got no problems with smoke or water or everything, but I think you've got to approach it with the understanding that because you're using a substance that is extremely random and chaotic, you know, the conditions for pareidolia are increased by a magnitude. You know, you've got to accept the fact that 99% of what you think is probably faces and stuff is just random movement of the smoke. You know, as long as you approach it with the, you know, with the outlook that it's an extremely prone material to be subject to pareidolia, I've got no problems with anybody using it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same with the you know, the video ITC that I've tried a couple of times. You know, I've seen other investigators and older researchers, you know, with very, very compelling pictures come up on the television using the loop method and that. But that's open to pareidolia as well. If we didn't have pareidolia, we would have an awful lot more answers. When you think about it, pareidolia is the thing that gets in the way of us finding answers. You know.
Yeah. Okie dokie then. What is your opinion on orbs, Andy?
Again, you've got to look at it really, 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 really. You've got to scrutinise it. We all know, well, we should all know by now that if you have got a phone camera, and you put an external light source on, such as your phone torch, you're going to pick up dust. You 99% chance of picking up dust. I could do it right now, you know. You know, the sort of distance, really bright, flashing oddities that you might get on night vision, you've got to look at them because, you know, and then if you're catching an orb in broad daylight with no external light source or out like that, in a very well lit room that you can prove has not been tampered with, that has definitely got to be considered. It might be something strange. That's my opinion.
Yep. Sam?
Orbs exist. You know, orbs exist. Dust exists. Dust is not orbs. Orbs is orbs, and you know, I believe that the real orb is some sort of energy that at times can react to our requests.
Agreed.
Which is very, very strange. The reason why orbs are getting a bad name is people are mistaking dust fragments in the air and saying that they're orbs. You know, to study orbs, you need to study dust. You just need to study the pattern of flying insects. the flight pattern of orbs is completely different.
See, for me, I think you can rule a lot of orbs out by a number of things. One is the way they move, and another one that a lot of people don't know and miss out on is actual luminosity. You will find as dust moves nearer to a camera, it gets brighter, whereas orbs tend to, that they self-illuminate even when they're out of the main light beam. And a lot of people that they see these orbs and they move towards the camera, and as they get right at the camera, they're really bright, and they go, no, that's just your dust being illuminated more by the light. It's like you say, you do have to learn the different things that signify the real from the mistaken. Selena says, my mum had a weird pattern carpet and I could see ducks wearing Wellington boots. Orbs Realm says, I remember when I used to dredge in a marina, the engine noise used to sound like songs, music, voices, so brain is complicated. He also says dust is the real thing. Jane says that's true. Orbs Realm says, I look for movement and interaction. Just how they move is important. Totally agree with your Orbs Realm. And again, I think luminosity is as well. You've got to look whether this thing is actually self-luminous or whether it is actually being illuminated by a light source.
Yeah, I mean, like, Brendan would, Brendan sometimes he comes on his channel, Brendan from Orbs Realm. He comes on and he doesn't even, sometimes he doesn't talk about orbs, but he's talking about something else entirely. And he's sitting in the room and there's light anomalies, it seems to be happening all the time. And it's, with Brendan and with Orbs Realm, it's nothing complicated in the way that he's filming or anything like that. It's just, he's filming, plainly and down to earth filming, nothing fantastic or anything like that. But you can see those light anomalies. So, and it's very, very interesting to watch, actually.
Right, now I'm going to ask you to this, and Orbs Realm can answer this in the comments as well if he wants. What percentage of photos or videos that people put forward claiming to be orbs would you say you would consider would be what's the percentage of genuine orbs would you say you think that there is?
I'd say around about 10%.
Okay. What would you say, Sam?
I was going to say between 5 and 10%.
Yeah, I'd have said between 5 and 10. And I do think a lot of them are misidentified.
I'll be lenient.
Yeah. I'd say between 5 and 10. I don't think any of us are. We'll see if what Orbs says. So much for me to. If you want to one of the Night's Orbs Realm, we'll do a discussion on one of the Friday nights discussion. We can base it round orbs, Andy, because you can cover the elemental side of it.
Yeah.
We can have 4 of us in the chat. That ain't a problem.
Yeah.
There you go. Orbs Realm says he would say about 4%. Quite interesting that. What how people. Joanne says she likes seeing coloured orbs. Pink ones are the nicest. You need to keep off the medication, Joanne. Or the gin.
Too much Calpol, that Joanne.
Well, it's like people watch TV shows, and when they see something strange themselves, they'll connect it with that TV show without the experience, and very often it's unexperienced evidence is being put out there, and you've got the fakers, and you've got the learners,
Would you two be free to discuss next Friday, Orbs?
Yes.
Sam?
Yeah.
I'll just ask Brendan in chat if Friday's okay. Because I think that'd be a good discussion, actually, if we covered orbs, because, there's a lot you can say about orbs.
It is. I've just got to nip off for 5. I'll be back in a minute. I've just got my meds to
Yeah, no
sort
problem.
out.
No problem. Calpol addict, lol. Yeah, we'll just see if Brendan can come on next Friday. Because I do a Friday stream, Brendan, where we pick a paranormal topic and just chat the crap out of it. Okay, well, what I'll do tomorrow morning, I'll message you on your channel and we'll arrange it. I'll get an email that you can contact me on and we'll sort it out for next Friday. Because I think that'd be an interesting chat, Sam, if we did one on orbs.
Yeah, and to have Brendan on would be great, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Because I can have up to 4. Well, I can have up to as many as I want on here, but 4's about a nice manageable number of people to discuss things. Because Brendan can talk about the orbs he gets from his point of view, and he can talk about them from the Fae point of view, and then we can just talk about them from the misidentification point of view.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
allowed to get his Calpol now, haha.
Yeah, the last orb that I had captured was in the abandoned military camp,
Mm-hmm.
and I just came out with this question, and it was just one of those filler things to say rather than saying nothing. Can you
Yeah.
show yourself as a light anomaly if you were
Yeah.
here? Wasn't expecting anything, and next thing, this flickering light came up through the room.
Yeah, well, the last one I saw was that one in the hallway of my old house, that blue one, Sam. And
Yeah,
that was the biggest orb I've ever seen in my life. It was the size of a grapefruit, and it was literally instant blue flash, big grapefruit centre. It was literally the size of a grapefruit, electric blue in colour, quick flash. It lit the entire all up, and then it disappeared. Never seen anything like it, honestly.
yeah, yeah. It's something similar happened on. Was it last week? You
Yeah,
were.
yeah, it was
I
last
think
week,
last
wasn't it?
week you were. I actually wasn't on your stream. I was in your chat, and
Mhm.
I had to log off to get a camera set up and that,
Yeah.
just in case there was anything else that would come up and that, you know. But it was a very intense,
Mhm.
blue light, you know.
Yeah, that one that went off, and it actually went off while I was doing the live. Oddly enough, talking to Andy, and it was literally like an arc. It literally like somebody was standing in the hallway with an arc welder, Sam.
Yeah,
It was exactly the same colour, and it was that bright as if somebody had just touched an arc welding rod to a piece of metal, and it flared in the hallway. I've never seen anything like it. But I saw the centre of it, and it was the size of a grapefruit. It
yeah,
weren't a tiny little thing; it was big. It was definitely grapefruits sized. But yeah, we'll do a discussion on Friday. Then we'll do orbs, and we'll get orbs realm on. It'll be yeah.
yeah. One of the investigations that I was involved in with Sharon Rectory, there actually is a clip of an orb going down the stairs,
All right.
and it actually, you know, the stairs declines. The orb actually declined with the stairs.
Mhm.
Which was very very interesting.
Yeah.
Because if it was dust, or if it was some particle in the air or an insect, they wouldn't be going with the decline of the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually came down the stairs, and it came down with
Yeah.
the slope,
Like
with
it was
this,
travelling down the stairs.
yeah, about 2 foot off the stairs itself.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so that was interesting in the pattern that it travelled.
Yeah.
You know.
Brendan says I have some amazing stories about orbs and my family. It'll be interesting to listen to them. Brendan, it will. Selena says the one I seen was white, fist size, stayed for about 2 minutes and it slowly faded away. Yeah, they're fascinating. They're a fascinating subject.
The this the
Andy's not
sa-
here at the moment, Joanne, but I can answer that for you because he's told me. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Andy, do the Fae use orbs to show themselves? Yes, they do. Jane, I saw a blue orb at my mum's house. I thought it might have been my dad. From an elemental point of view, I don't know about anybody else's point of view, but I know blue orbs, from an elemental point of view, are often associated with familiars, and they are sometimes associated with fairies as well. I also, uh, Jane says, I saw a blue orb at my mum's house. I thought it might have been my dad. Possibly. Brendan says, I also did video on insects and what they look like as a comparison. This is the thing, Brendan. It is very, if you study insect movements, it's very easy to rule out insects and stuff like that because they do move in specific flight patterns. And that was interesting, Sam. Perfect example of how an orb may move. That was Chris. The two I saw were big, round and wide, Stephen says.
Very often orbs are missed in real time because a lot of paranormal investigators that video for social media or YouTube, they sometimes concentrate too much on the camera and they actually miss what is going on around them.
Yeah.
That's the trap that some people do fall into.
Yeah. See, that's where the beauty of your slow motion can come in, because you can show, especially if they're fast moving, you can actually slow them down to show people the actual path they took, so it helps you narrow down things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get off the subject of orbs for now anyway, because we'll keep that for next week. We'll have a good chat about orbs.
Yeah.
Poltergeists, Sam. What do you think about poltergeists?
Real poltergeist or YouTube poltergeists?
Poltergeists in general.
The word poltergeist is noise-making ghost.
Yeah.
Now they move things, and I've experienced that in the house. But it is actually kind of rare.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, an unseen force is moving an object. Now, as I said in the last stream, in my case, it moved a doll that was about just under a kilo in weight. And my first, after having a little bit of a fright, my first reaction was, how is that possible, The other side of it is, if you type in poltergeist on YouTube, you're going to get a lot of videos, because that actually is a tagged word. And if you hear the word poltergeist in a title of a video that's going to go out live, something is up, because they haven't actually done the investigation.
Yeah.
So it's an overused word. It's an overused word, and it's an actual rare occurrence, but it does happen.
Yeah. Well, it was actually a poltergeist experience that originally got me into the paranormal. But a lot of what's going on YouTube wise at the moment is a lot of people don't study what is generally considered to be needed for poltergeist activities to occur, and normally it's an adolescent child that they tend to manifest around. Not always, but a lot of the time, and there is quite a popular belief now that poltergeists could actually be feeding off the energy of adolescence.
Yeah,
I do genuinely believe that the one I experienced was partly that and partly something else, because the one I encountered actually manifested into a proper person at the end that I saw. But I do think that it was feeding off me at the time. I genuinely
I'm back.
do.
Sorry about that.
Welcome back. And I know you experienced poltergeist activity as a kid, didn't you, Andy?
Yes, I did. Disastrous. We had 13 houses that we lived in over 15 years of me growing up. Due to odd stuff happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
But see, my parents still live in the house where it happened to me. And even, I don't go back there very often, but even now I do not like that room at all.
Me and Rachel have a nickname for poltergeists in YouTube videos.
What you
We
call
call we call it gobshite activity.
What,
Gobshite.
why do you think there's this thing, of having buzzwords all the while and everybody suddenly jumps on one topic? Do you think it is solely down to views and subs? One person does it, so they all jump on it, or do you think it's someone else?
I think it's kind of it's a chain reaction,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got the circle poltergeist, Dybbuk box, uh, Bigfoot, or the usual trend words. It seems to be like seasons. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how that actually comes about.
Yeah.
Dybbuk boxes is due a return very soon, and there may be something else invented and used as a tag word.
Yeah.
It could be all. It could be all to do with somebody analyzing the inner workings of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
When in the line of tags.
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of these bigger teams, and you will find the word poltergeist and demons.
Yeah.
Demons is another one. They will put them in their tags, in their channel tags, and in a video,
Mm-hmm.
even though they're not associated with the video at all. They're just associated with paranormal activity, and it's a lot of these channels that keep that thing going. But I think it's something to do with chain reactions for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know how it starts off.
Right. Talking about internet trends, what is everybody's opinion on Zozo? Andy?
Oh.
I love the topic of Zozo.
Dear.
I love the topic of Zozo.
I just the Desmonds.
Yeah.
I just no. There's absolutely nothing to it apart from myth and legend. Now that's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Sam?
Well, I've had demons and Satan come up in my spirit box a lot. Never the word so. I don't even know if it's true or not.
Okay. Well, for those who still do, no problem, Brendan. You have a good night. For those of you who do believe in Brendan, if you go and research it, there is ample evidence out there on the internet itself to show you that he is basically a complete fabrication that was formed on a ghost discussion forum and
Do you know what you
was
just?
rapidly followed by Slenderman.
Did you know what you just said?
I
Well,
think I know, Sam.
Believe in Brendan.
Oh,
Did I?
That's not a very nice thing to say about Brendan.
what did I say?
If you believe in Brendan, not Zozo.
Sorry, Brendan. It's because I was saying goodnight to him. For anybody who believes in Zozo, sorry, Brendan. It's very easy to find out about, and he was basically invented by a guy who was very much into Led Zeppelin, and all the key features of Zozo can be linked to the band Led Zeppelin, and that is where he Bloody Mary is. There's an interesting one. What do you think of Bloody Mary, Andy? Because she's more of an American thing, isn't she?
Yes, very much the American, like sort of similar lines that Candyman thing, isn't it?
Apparently you look in a mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times or something, is it?
Yeah, and then she's meant to appear behind you and do horrible, unspeakable acts. But no, I don't. To be honest, I don't think there's out to any of them urban legends like that. I really don't.
No. Sam?
I would consider the Bloody Mary challenge the same as the 3 a.m. challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is a Bloody Mary voodoo priestess in America.
Is there?
Yeah, she was on Ghost Adventures.
I never watch it, Sam. I never watch it. I got to be honest.
Yeah, she has an actual shop, and I think the apartment above that shop was the scene of a gruesome murder and that. But she has a lot of stuff in her house and that. It's quite strange for somebody that doesn't know about voodoo rituals and stuff like that.
Hmm.
You know.
What is your opinions on voodoo as a religion and all this thing with voodoo dolls and zombies and stuff, Andy?
Um, I just, I believe it's their own take on witchcraft.
Hmm.
Personally, you know, it's just something that they develop slightly differently.
Yeah, well, it,
And
it, it, it developed from African
yeah,
magic anyway.
yeah,
The
but
link there has been proven.
yeah. So if you go a little bit further back, and you know, when alt world were like it was with pagans and that, I just think it was developed from a similar sort of thought process and learnt from all different people. But like with witchcraft, I think there can be something to it.
Oh yeah.
With the zombie thing though, obviously that's been proven it was just a drug.
Mhm.
But the old voodoo doll thing is very similar to the poppet thing. But
Yeah.
it just depends what they do. I mean, it's the same with them. There's no really light or dark to what they do. Everybody thinks it's dark and nasty,
Hmm.
but there's a wide range of everything involved in it.
Joanne says Bloody Mary does exist. You can buy her in a pub. Sam, what's your opinion on voodoo?
It's never anything that I want to sort of look into. I am kind of skeptical of that,
Right.
but I've been I've learned by looking at other things on the television on YouTube that voodoo isn't the negative thing that are people have got a picture of, and actually Hollywood has a lot to answer for there.
Yep. See, I agree with what you've just said, Sam. I do believe that voodoo in itself works on some levels, but I do believe that voodoo itself has been subject to, like a lot of things paranormal have, the Hollywood treatment, and people have got totally the wrong idea of what voodoo actually is. Most of the time, it's actually a peaceful religion, and things like voodoo dolls are actually used in healing rather than cursing people to death. I do believe, like modern day paganism and witchcraft, that there are people who now exploit that Hollywood image to um, profiteer off that image rather than represent what voodoo truly is. Joanne, I've never heard of it. Usual in here, lol. Never heard of what? What have you never heard of, Selena?
She got scared the life out of me.
Somebody's just walked. That's my ghost dog, Sam. That's the spirit that comes in the living room every so often and barks.
So I've got a little, just quickly nipping back to Zozo, a
Mhm.
little interesting tidbit for you.
Go on.
Right?
Mhm.
So if you pull up a list of all the named demons throughout the ages, be
Yeah.
it in the the Bible, the sort of demonology cases and all that, Zozo is never mentioned. But if you pull up all the fictional names
Yeah.
of demons, Zozo is right next to Zool from Ghostbusters.
Yeah. The name Zozo is actually a bastardization of uh, the god of Saturn, Soso, Soso,
Yeah.
and that is the symbol that was apparently burned onto the back of the Ouija board. Is actually the symbol for Soso, Saturn, which represented Saturn.
And I think closest one was like Pazuzu, weren't it?
Yeah, but they believe it was Soso he was based, because that was the symbol that Jimmy Page had on the drums. It was the symbol for Soso, SOSO, which was he's the god Saturn. So and he just changed the S's for Z's, but still used the same symbol as the one on the Led Zeppelin band bass drum. So he's very, very much linked to Led Zeppelin. Is Zozo? He's the demon of heavy rock.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange that actually, a lot of us that do ITC, we get Demon and Satan coming up a lot, but we don't get any of these other ones.
Yep.
Yep.
And then again, you've got to take pareidolia into account, because how many people are actually hearing something else and just thinking it's saying demon and Satan and Lucifer.
Yeah, the first syllable of one word with two different syllables from two different words, and them joined together can make a word in that. But the fact that you do a session and the word demon comes up a number of times, it's kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes up more than once, like.
So, do you two believe it is actually possible to create a spirit by force of will, like they did with the Philip experiment? Do you believe that the Philip experiment actually worked?
In some respects, yes.
In what respects, Andy?
Well, I'll always promote what I do, and there's technicalities that like the fetch kind of thing.
I was going to say, do you believe he was a fetch? Because that's exactly what I think he was.
Yeah, I believe one of them had the ability to speak externally and do what it did externally. Yeah.
Sam, what's your opinion on the Philip experiment?
Never actually seen them.
It was basically in the 70s, a group of people got together and decided to try and create their own spirit, their own ghost to communicate with, and they tried for a while and couldn't get anything to work, and then they all sat down and they literally, between them, invented a complete life and history for this entity they called Philip, and then he started manifesting by rapping and literally communicating with them via EVP and all sorts of weird and wonderful manners.
Paranormal is full of theories. I can't rule it out. I can't rule it out. I find it hard to understand, but then again, combined energies may be a powerful force that we don't understand.
Yeah, hang on. It appears Joanne asked a question I've missed. I've just scrolled up and couldn't see what she'd asked. Can you repeat the question, Joanne?
Is it based on talisman?
I presume so, because she's put a magic talisman. Okay, Stephen, thanks for that.
Let me have a look.
Question
for you all.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, she just says, do you believe magic talismans work?
Yes.
Yes.
In a nutshell.
Again, I will type in an art response just as you brought it up, but again, it's all down to intent of it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like with any tool, it's just an inanimate tool, but the intent you put on it and ask for help with it via the universe, it can produce results.
Yeah, I genuinely believe they work. Obviously, they are created via... I won't necessarily say witchcraft, because they can be created by other magical methods that are not considered witchcraft, but I genuinely do believe that magic talismans can work. Sam?
Sorry, I got a bit lost in the...
Do you believe that magic talismans can work?
That's gone
Now,
away over.
now
Gone away over.
I'll put something to you. Consider from the Christianity point of view a crucifix.
Right.
So, do you believe, say, like, because I suppose to Christians the crucifix is a form of magic talisman, isn't it?
Yeah,
Andy?
yeah. I would imagine it would be.
You know,
Yeah.
so do you believe they can actually work?
Well, the work for Huff.
Oh yeah, he's got plenty of them on the wall. It brought John the Baptist to him, and you know.
Right, Joanne says, so is it better to craft a talisman yourself? I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, Joanne. I think, they can be crafted for you as long as the intent is done. Andy? I believe if you craft them yourself, they're stronger, but you don't have to necessarily craft them yourself.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to do it. I believe if you're able to do it, do it.
Yeah.
Because you're doing something then that's healthy for your brain, and you're crafting away. And if you're able to do it, but if you're not able to do it, then somebody can produce it for you. Definitely.
I actually was in the office of an exorcist priest, and he specialised in other stuff as well.
Did he get it out of you, Sam?
I was I had walked away from the paranormal when I actually visited this priest actually, but he had a table and it was full of Holy Mary statues.
Right.
And then he noticed while he was talking to me that I was fixed on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, is there any particular statue that you are concentrating on right now? And I says, yes, this one here, which looked like, was made out of wood.
Mm.
And he says, what is it about that statue that you feel is special? I says, I'm not 100% sure, but it seems to be crafted with a lot of love and that. And then he told me the story that it was believed to be crafted by a village person,
John the Baptist,
who was instructed by Mary to make that statue.
Oh, right.
Yes. Do you know? So,
we're talking Mary, Mother of God here, instructed him to make it. That Mary.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. But I kind of sense that there was a lot of love put into that.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the other statues were probably, they were probably molded. They were probably made out of a mold. But this particular statue seemed to have a much more significance than these other statues. But some of them had looked similar,
Yeah. See, I'm very dubious on the subject of exorcisms from a Christian point of view. I do believe that it is possible for negative energy to attach itself to somebody, but I don't think you necessarily need a Roman Catholic priest to get rid of something that's negative. I think anybody with enough belief and experience and intent could probably do, and I don't believe it. Bigsby's just come on again.
Really?
Yeah. I think, there are people out there who are not Roman Catholic priests who could do exactly the same job. I do think it's down to intent. Because I don't believe in demons from the Christian point of view. That's why I don't,
Well, when it comes to negative attack, I had been attacked once. And
I believe it can happen, Sam. I just don't believe I don't believe it's Beelzebub and Satan and that lot doing it.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to put a label. I did label it at the time.
Yeah.
Do you know? But yeah, I do believe in the negative attachment,
Mm-hmm.
and I do believe that it can be got rid of.
And
You know,
Sorry, ask that again.
what's your
Or
opinion on exorcism and?
Ah. Strange one, this, obviously, because you know my beliefs that the Fae were demonised, and I do know, with research into folklore, there is some Fae that like to bond to people.
Mm-hmm.
Be the slightly more what you class as negative ones, although they're not all that negative, but it's a tough one for me. I don't think there's any true religious cases of possession and exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they try and do it not knowing, or especially in modern day, not knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that's just my thought. It's all weird. I don't know.
well, when you,
I think it works on the basis that one, the Catholic priest themselves believes it, so the intent's there, and I think because the people now associate Catholic priests so much with exorcisms, it's their belief and their intent helping fuel it as well to get rid of whatever it is.
well, when you think of these cases of the demon dog, which I was involved in a location that involved a demon dog, and I went, okay, right.
Mm-hmm.
And then these animals too are considered a elemental of some kind.
Yeah.
So the one side is saying they're a demon dog,
Mm-hmm.
the other side is saying it's an elemental of some kind.
To be honest with you, if it is the elemental, the Barghest, it's worse than any demon dog you can dream up.
Yeah.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but Barghests are basically shapeshifters. Long teeth and long claws, extremely long teeth, long claws. They can sit on. They have a very weird attack that they like to use of jumping on people's backs to attack them, and they can sit on fences and things to literally attack from ambush. They are almost your bog typical werewolf type figure, ain't they, Andy?
Yeah.
Extremely unpleasant animals, much
Yeah.
scarier than any demon dog you could dream up. They're quite common in Ireland as well, Sam, believe it or not.
Yeah, there's supposed to be one at the Hellfire Club.
There is actually supposedly one here as well, between not far from here at the Stocksbridge bypass, where the famous Black Monk appears. There is apparently a Barghest there as well.
Yeah.
They seem to occur mainly in the north of England and Ireland, down there, Andy, for some reason.
Yes, very much so.
Joanne says she'd hate to come across a shapeshifter. How do you know you haven't, Joanne?
Exactly.
You can't say with 100% certainty that you haven't encountered a shapeshifter. Because if they're a good shapeshifter, you'd never know.
You could meet one in the shop and you wouldn't even know.
We introduced Sam to one the other night. Remember the photo, Sam? Reptile, bug eyes.
All right, yeah. Oh yeah.
It's lovely when the penny drops in it.
Yeah, I think I better not make any more comment on that one. Very interesting. Has anybody spotted the mysterious Mr. Whiteby in my square here?
He's in the corner still, isn't he? He's up on the shelf.
Yes. And the thing is,
Do you know what we should do, Andy? We should do an experiment to see if we can imbue anything into Mr. Whiteby over the next month.
Get responses from him.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit more to Mr. Whiteby than meets the eye.
Has he got a girlfriend?
You got her in one. They're supposed to get married, but you know the social distancing thing that's going on.
Oh, Sam, you are very, very, very bored lately.
So now we've got Mr. and Mrs. YB. You need to put them, keep them both in view, Sam.
I had them apart from social distancing.
Right. She's got 4 quid's worth of toilet paper there.
Is the two of them sort of in shot?
Yeah, we can see them. Mr. and Mrs. YB. Yeah, we can see them. So what's your opinion on that? Do you think it's possible? Like, I know you've got all your dolls and creepy shit, Sam. Do you believe it's possible to imbue something into an item like that?
Into an item?
Yeah, and I ain't talking about stone tape theory. I'm talking, do you think it is possible to consciously imbue energy or some kind of entity into an item?
When you buy a gift, sometimes you know I have a doll and I consider it a gift to a friend that has passed. So am I inadvertently wishing that that person's energy attaches to the doll? Possibly. I don't. You know, that's sort of the way I look at it. I look at the items that are in the house that would have possible attachment, like a trigger object.
Yeah.
The energy's attracted to it in some sort of way. But you know, we're all wrapped up in theories here.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What's your opinion on that, Andy?
I believe in certain circumstances you possibly could.
I think it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's easy, but I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Hi, Gay. Welcome to the channel. We've got the Australians coming in now.
All right.
Greetings to Australia. Nice to see you. Would you ever use a Ouija board, Sam?
Well, I told the team that I was working with that the only way I would use a Ouija board is if I used it on my own, and 2, that I was blindfolded.
So you got no problem with actually using one?
I have no problem with actually using one, but you know, I'm very skeptical of it. Because humans. It's not that, you know, investigators, we trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
But is it a possibility that people are moving this planchette because their mind is saying, right, they asked a question and they're looking for a yes or no answer, and they're all thinking that it's going to be a no answer. So are they subconsciously moving the planchette towards no?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no way of proving that because there's so many people. There's a number of people with their fingers on the planchette.
Yeah.
If a person was there on their own, which people say you shouldn't do it, and that's one of the reasons why I'm sort of not allowed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take all these other senses away, how would it behave?
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with the planchette, with the where you put the pencil in and you put a piece of paper down and that they had, you know, yeah. You know, it's not a thing that I'm sort of interested in because of human error.
Yeah.
And you know, I do have dowsing rods too, but dowsing rods can be manipulated. Yes, I've used dowsing rods and I've had pins and needles come up my hand by using them, but there is that little bit of an element too of, you know, mind over matter. Are you subconsciously manipulate them. You can manipulate these rods with the slightest movement too, you know, to a certain extent.
Yeah, this is going to be a silly question to ask Andy, but I've got to do it anyway. What's your opinion on Ouija boards and dowsing rods, Andy?
Oh, I love them. I love them. Ouija boards again. You know, forget modern era. Go way back.
Yeah.
You know, there's little hints in what they were actually used for, right in the look of it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
As for dowsing rods, you know, I believe there's certain ways that you should be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of people used to use them for finding oil and water and stuff like that underground, and a lot of people had good results doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe if you want fantastic results, and this is a secret tip, go barefoot.
So you're grounded.
So you're grounded, because that's what you're working with, finding stuff in earth.
Yeah.
But yeah.
See, some people actually use them as a communication device now, don't they?
They do.
You know,
do, yeah.
Cross them over or spread them apart. So that sounds well. You know, to communicate. Do you think that works?
I personally don't have any luck doing it.
Right.
I've tried
tried it, but
well, I've got a set if you want me to bring them one day and
yeah, bring them. We'll
have a
try
back on. Yeah, Becky's not too bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe were really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I can say, really. You know, they were only 3 people I trusted watching do it, and you know, I'm rubbish, so just stay still for me.
See, I believe it is possible that they could be communicating, because if you're communicating with something on either a spiritual or an elemental level, they're all energies, they're all energy forms,
Yes.
and I think they could manipulate it if they wanted to. Like I say, I've never I've tried dowsing rods, but never used them to communicate with anybody. So it would be interesting. But Sam says there's a bit dubious on them.
But yeah, but the other side of it is there was one TV show that I actually was very interested in. They done a series on Northern Ireland's called Northern Ireland's Greatest Haunts, and they done a series on Britain's Greatest Haunts,
Mm-hmm.
and Andy Matthews was involved in that. And Andy doesn't come across as somebody that bullshits or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only tool he's a psychic, right? He is a psychic, but he always has dowsing rods in his pockets, and what he's a lot of the time he's looking for walls of energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Along with the communication, he's looking for walls of energy where, say if he goes into a location and he doesn't feel welcome, he feels the energy is pushing him back.
Yeah.
He takes out the thing and he walks with them, and next thing they cross over, he says, "There's the wall of energy here," because I go over here and do the same thing, and it's crossing right here. So the wall of energy is along here.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. It's very, very interesting, actually.
What a lot of people don't realise, Sam, is a lot of the petroleum companies have actually used professional dowsers to find land deposits.
Right.
And that there is actually documented evidence that companies like Shell and BP and stuff have actually used professional dowsers, and other companies that specialise in minerals have used them as well. Quite interesting. Yeah. Gay says we know Andy loves them. I agree with Andy, especially like the dowsing rods.
Yeah, there's another guy. He was talking. He started to get into the paranormal because he was looking. He's friends with Paranormal Tech. His name is Matt TUK, and he normally does hiking and fishing and sort of all that outdoorsy stuff.
Yeah.
So he decided to do a paranormal investigation on top of a mountain in a tent.
Mm-hmm.
On a zinc and copper mine, I think, or some sort of a mine anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And where am I going with this? Oh yeah, he told us the story of he used to do driveways to houses or something like that.
Right.
And what happened was they hit a water main.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that was working with him took out a set of dowsing rods out of his car, and the pipe for the main to the house was kind of laid in a curve shape.
Right.
And he says that couldn't have been laid like that. He says, I'm telling you, that's what the dowsing rods tells me.
Mm-hmm.
So they dug a hole in all the spots where he got the results. And it was true. This pipe was laid in a kind of a
In a curve
curve.
rather than a straight line.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Do you know?
interesting.
Yeah.
Waterboard uses them looking for water pipes. There you go. Do you think it? Do you know? Especially with things like water, because they're one of the elements. You know, flowing water generates energy. Well, we know it does anyway, don't we? Because it, could be converted into electricity and stuff. But I think it generates other forms of energy as well. Elemental energy more so than just kinetic energy.
That's why I love visiting old abandoned mills, because they're just rife. We've always noticed it. Fantastic activity around them.
Yeah, and I think
obviously,
I think that's why you get a lot of activity of like hauntings and and psychic experiences reported on tops of mountains and really high places as well, because you're up in the element of air then.
You are, yeah.
Yeah, somebody has put out the theory to this. Do you know when a river is flowing, it's bringing small particles of silt, particles of stone, and inside a particle of stone would be, in a lot of cases, little particles of crystal.
Yeah.
So you have that movement of energy as well.
Yeah, because quartz is in most, is quite common quartz, and it's known to be one of the best conductors. It's actually a natural amplifier. Gay says, I feel you can tell if they are being communicated with or they are being moved by the people holding them. I agree with you, Gay, because a lot of people who do fake it don't realise that they move posture and stuff slightly when they either lean forward or you see the hands tip slightly forward or something. That's what I would like to do, an experiment where they are fixed on a couple of clamps or something, so you ain't physically touching them.
Yeah,
Just touch the base of the clamps.
Or a block of wood, and then they're set into the block of wood or something, Then they'll be embraced,
Okay, Stephen says he's put a video that I'll watch later. Cheers, Stephen. And I can't stop cheers. Is there any subjects you two want to bring up? What you got there, Sam?
I have a small pair of those. I seem to have everything right beside me
I was going
here.
to say, there's very little you don't have.
Yeah, my office is a sort of organised mess.
Should we start talking about rampant rabbits, Andy? See if he pulls one of them out of the desk.
Apparently, there's some fantastic energy that moves straight through one of them,
Causes them to vibrate at high frequency.
It does. Very high frequencies.
Go on, Sam, let's see you have a go with them.
Just, Right, if there's any energy in this room, can you cross the rods to show us that you're here? I'm getting pins and needles in my fingers already, like.
Do you know, I always find when I use dowsing rods that happens. I feel just like I've got pins and needles.
Although I have used dowsing rods in Cumber House, and it actually wasn't on camera. But I actually just took up one and it just spun right around it. It just went like that, and I hadn't moved it. Try it one more.
Do you know what the favourite wood for ancient dowsing rods were used for? It was witch elm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Right, if there's any energies in the room, can you cross the rods? Or move them back towards me, whatever you want to do.
I'd shit myself if Mr. Wipey flies off the shelf in a minute.
I know. Yeah, I'm getting pins and needles in the right hand. But it's believed that the more you use them, it's like your favorite spirit box. It's it's the communicator. You have to have a connection with them.
Can I stop you there? That is a question I want to ask you both. Do you believe that you have to attune yourself with your equipment? Start with Andy.
Yes.
Okay, why?
I do. Because I believe that every interaction with any energy is a partnership. I don't think anybody can just go out there and do it without some form of practice involved. You know, I think you get stronger and stronger the more you do it, and the more you attune yourself to it and everything. And you know, I think it's mainly involved in a partnership rather than just, you know, willy-nilly in kind of thing.
Sam?
I'm sort of the belief that, you know, the most important part of that communication actually is the operator.
Mm-hmm.
No, and if the piece of equipment they're using, say we're using a specific spirit box for a long time,
Yeah.
it's a possibility you can get better results. Like I had 2 Roberts 9921s, and one of them came from Paranormal Investigators. And every time I turned this box on, I was getting demons and Satan and all sorts of. I was told to F off and all sorts of negative stuff.
Mm.
And I actually used that box in Rachel's house, and people were shocked with the stuff that was coming out of that box.
Yeah.
Yes, I would use another box, and none of that stuff was coming out at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't know. I don't. You know, it's a strange one.
Yeah. Tracy B says, I do, yes. I think that the more you bond with, particularly spirit boxes, the more you bond with them, the better you get with them. And I think it's because you, like with anything else, like with a lot of things in Wicca and paganism and witchcraft, things that are personal to you have a greater power. Because part of your energy goes into that. Like when you make anything, literally part of your energy goes into anything you create.
And this is the exact reason I'm considering getting rid of my 587, because I just don't feel like I can build a bond with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm considering letting it go, you know.
Yeah.
Holy Grail in some eyes or not, I'm not bothered about it.
I've got to be honest, Andy, I've never been impressed with the 12587 ever.
I mean, most impressive thing I think we got with that pool cut Samhain.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, like I have a load of spirit boxes, and the one that I use the most now is the one that I
find your favourite one works the best, Sam?
Yeah. No, actually. I mean, this here was the most tattiest looking box when I bought it. I mean, it looked like something a builder left behind.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's the one that I use. And I find I get the most results from it. Mm-hmm. for some reason. And I mean, like, I have a number of different Roberts.
That's because you've decorated it yourself. You've invested some of yourself in it. That's why.
And that is the theory around the decorated guitar amp, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is something to that, a personal thing to that. Yeah. And that's why I think, you know, yes, the theory around it is a little bit sus, and there's a little bit of suspicious activity behind the sale of these things.
Yeah. See, this is why when I said to Andy, you know, can you build me box, but I want to decorate it myself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, because I'd got to put part of myself into it. You know, just cutting me crappy old day, you know, weren't enough. I'd got to decorate it.
yeah. I mean, like I have this one. It's not. There isn't wires stuck out of the top, but you know,
Mhm.
my personal touch is the
Yeah.
lights that are hidden in here, and this crystal that's along the top. You know, and I feel that's part of my personal touch. You know,
Mhm.
do you know?
See, I personally believe Andy and Becky, either Andy or Becky, could use my spirit box as well because they
Possibly.
because she built it.
Yeah, possibly.
I think I'd get better results with it because not only did I decorate it, but I've invested, you know, a lot of time with it since, and I sleep with it next to the bed. Believe it or not,
Right.
you know, it's actually next to my literally on the bedside cabinet. It is always on the bedside cabinet when I sleep. But I do believe that you and Becky would get good results out of it as well because
Yeah.
both of you have invested so much time into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because you know I do have other spurt boxes and they look better spurt boxes,
Hmm.
but I don't bond with it.
Yeah.
I just don't. And that crappy old thing that I ended up painting because it looked so bad
Hmm.
is the one that I tend. It took me a while to find that,
Yeah.
you know, because I was using different spurt boxes. And even, you know, the Holy Grail, it doesn't work for me a lot of the time. You
Mm.
know, it worked. The PSP 7 is starting to work,
Yeah.
but it's like when I left ITC, which was completely different than it is now. When I started doing it, you know, when I started doing it 3 years ago again, it took about 3 weeks before I got my first piece of communication. Do you know? It just didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Do you know? And that's what a lot of people say. You know, you're going to find it difficult in the beginning. You're going to find that it's going to take a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You
See,
know?
I was the same when I first bought my PSP 7. I sat with it for 4 weeks and thought this thing's fucking useless. You know, I was getting very little out of it. Now it's actually part of my main spirit box. But as the months went on with me using it, I got better and better and better communication through it. As I started to feel more attuned to the, you know, as I got more attached to it. Because when it first came, it was just a piece, you know, it was just a piece of equipment that I'd bought to use. But as I've got more and more attached to it, I've got better, you know, results with it. Did you find that with yours, Andy?
What SB?
Yeah,
Yeah. It was shocking when I first bought it.
yeah, mine was. I got nothing out of it for about a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we kept, going at it, and then it just started like triggering in. It really odd. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's,
found that with mine.
I've always fallen back to that one. I mean, because we've used some manuals.
Mhm.
I mean, I've got a little bit of a strange. It's on topic of what we've been talking about, but Becky had a manual tune,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, let me decorate it up for you, Bex."
Mhm.
And she got really good results from it. And as soon as I decorated it, she lost everything with it.
Yeah.
She couldn't get nothing to come through it, and it ended up it's just gone.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do believe in it,
I do.
in, in the all putting your own flair on it and stuff.
Yeah, I do. I think anything you invest your time into, it imbue. It's like stone tape theory, innit? It absorbs
Yeah,
part of you. And regardless of what you believe you're connecting with, if there's a part of you in that equipment they're using and their energy and there's your energy in there, it's easy for that connection. That's how I
yeah,
believe it works. It looks like Tracy's going to hit you up for your 12587.
cool.
I've got to be honest, I've never seen the fascination with them. I don't like the fact they keep stopping halfway through the scan and stuff. I can honestly say my Roberts has never paused. You know, once I start scanning it, just goes forever until I stop it.
Yeah, there's certain there's certain occasions when the 12-587 won't stop, and I can't remember what it is. I know when I connected it to the amplifier and I was in a certain place, it would just keep going.
Hmm.
So I don't know why it stops. I don't know what the reason is, but I've been in certain areas where it hasn't stopped at all.
Yeah,
So I
same
don't
here.
know
So
what. Yeah, so I
I've
don't
had
know
that
what
as
the
well.
reason. Something to do with signal,
Hmm.
possibly, possibly. Do you know?
What I'd do with your PSP 7, Tracy, is build it into, and for want of a better word, a portal. You know, I ain't overly keen on using that word, but that's about the best description for it, that most people will know. I'd still refer to mine as a spirit box, but, people know them all
Yeah.
as portal.
I would be the opposite. Because I find the magnitude mode, I do not use a pedal at all. I do not use filtering at all with the magnitude mode because I don't think there's much to filter out.
Hmm.
It'd be different if the white noise was more dominant than the responses coming through. Then you can control your white noise that way.
Hmm.
Yes, maybe on FM, but on magnitude mode, I would just let it run through the box naturally.
Yeah, yeah.
You know. And if you are getting bursts of static, try a bit of tin foil around it or something.
Hmm.
Something to shield it.
Yeah.
You know.
Tracy says I've got the reverb and noise gate, etc., and it's set up in a box, but now deck. What's a deck? Etc., and cables all over the place.
Yeah,
Uh,
I talk. Sorry.
Stephen says, but how can we prove that it's actually spirits talking through the box? This is something I always say, Stephen. We've got absolutely no proof that we're talking to dead people. All I can say is I genuinely believe I am talking to something intelligent through my box. And I've got to take what they tell me as face value because I've got no way to prove it otherwise.
Yeah, like Dr. Annabella Cardoso calls it. I call it the same thing. I call them the communicators.
See, and
They
I
do
call, I
say,
call them entities.
yeah, they do say they're spirits or ghosts. But what's their definition of spirits and ghosts? Is it different than what we
Hmm.
interpret them?
Yeah. But see, I've had sessions on the spirit box where I have specifically said, "Are you a dead person?" and got the answer no.
Yeah,
But then again, you've also got to take into the fact that whether you think you're talking to spirits, whether you think you're talking to the fae, both of them can be notorious liars. So
oh, that's yeah,
so
that's
even if you are genuinely talking to spirits or fae, you've still got to take what they say, carefully, because there are ones out there, both spirit and fae, that will happily lie to you. Would you agree with that, Andy?
Depend on the circumstances, yeah.
Hmm.
yeah. I actually was lost in an abandoned hospital. I only had one small window to get out. And I was in a bit of a panic because it was starting to get dark. Like, I said, Spurs, I need your help right now. Can you tell me where to go? Do I go right or left? And they'll say left and right and left. They got me lost.
But at least you were getting responses of left and right.
I was blown away by that. And I was very, very new to filming paranormal investigating. I wasn't doing paranormal investigating in the field. I took a REM pod and I took a spirit box and that, and I done a really bad job. But it was a fantastic place. Every single room looked exactly the same. So
Oh
that,
God.
yeah, and just one tiny window to get in and out.
Hmm.
So panic did set in.
Yeah.
But I was sent in the wrong direction. I was getting directions, but it was the wrong ones.
Yeah.
So whatever's communicating with us can lie to us.
That's interesting what Tracy's put there. I did get the box out after Friday's stream, Andy, to see what I
Right.
could get. Reference the Tight Head band and got a few things gnome a couple of times.
Ah, well, there you go.
Hmm I out. I presume that I got out some chalk and said it was a present, and then all the names of the family were said.
Yeah, that's typical. Very typical. We'll start reeling them all off because they come in big groups, usually.
Joanne says yes, but the spirits won't say they are dead because remember they are consciousness, so they will believe they are. I have actually had both on the Ouija board and on spirit boxes confirm they are or claim they're dead people.
Yeah.
So or that they are what is left of a dead person. But I've also had them claim that they're not, and interestingly, refuse to actually define what they are. I find that 9 times out of 10, if you get an entity on a spirit box and you ask them directly what they are, if they're not a dead person, they tend to refuse to answer, which I think is interesting in itself. So what are they? But see, I never go on the spirit box now. I used to, but I don't anymore. I never go on the spirit box now with the assumption that it's going to be a dead person I talk to. I go on with the assumption it could be anybody or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, even though my spirit box is on a lot of the time, I don't know, sometimes I like putting it on as kind of a sort of a comfort kind of a thing. It's a hat.
I'll do, Sam. I'll just put it on and just, if normally on the morning, if Jace ain't here, and I'll just switch it on. It's pointless doing it while Jace is here because he'll be chatting away about things. But if I'm here on my own and I've got a spare 10 minutes, I'll just flick the box on and just have a listen and see what comes out. Do
Yeah,
you
and
do that,
for
Andy?
Sometimes I ain't had it on for a while, but sometimes I do.
I too, I've only started putting it on in the car while I'm driving along, and if it only happened once, I could say I was really, really lucky. But it was two occasions where words came out relevant to the situation. One, I clipped a curb, and I just said, I just said to the camera, I cut that corner every time. And next thing, it just said cut corners.
Mm-hmm.
And the other night, I was driving home from Rachel's house, and I came up to a junction. Now there was no traffic lights, and it says lights, and I said, no, there's the lights are on the next one. But when I looked at the video, there was actually, the lollipop lights, the
Yeah.
flashing ones. So either that was communication, or it was extremely good timing on both occasions.
Well, the perfect example of something happening like that to us was the night we did the Samhain ceremony. And when we got
Yeah.
there, we heard this bellow. Or it sounded like a cow mooing, or a deer, something along. It sounded animalistic anyway, didn't it, Andy?
We did, yeah.
And then we did the spirit box session after, and you clearly heard Puka, because if you watch the video, you can actually hear me say it said Puka, and I hadn't got a clue what Puka was, and it was only when Andy looked it up after that we realised that it was tied to a fae that is actually connected to Samhain.
Yeah.
And
And it
we
and it
didn't we
and
didn't
it and
know
it
that at the
and
time.
it can come as an animal to
Yeah,
start with. Yeah.
yeah.
Really strange stuff.
I
You
did
know that
hear, yeah, I did hear of Puka before, but it's mentioned in Ireland a lot.
I'd
Yeah.
never heard of him. Sam, to me, it sounded like a Pokemon. I'll be honest, it sounded like a Pokemon. And you can clearly hear me say on. It's just said Puka, and I hadn't got a clue what it was. I thought it was, Pokemon reference.
Yeah, because when I said to it, I said, "What type are you?" I was trying to get it to say what type, and it just went, "Just a puka."
Yeah,
I'm just one of them. Really bizarre word to be coming over a spirit box. I'll be honest.
yeah. Trey says, yeah, I think I need to put it on a daily basis and build up the same rapport I've got with some other stuff. Yeah, definitely, Tracy. You'll find the more you work with your spirit box, the more you'll start to get some really good stuff coming through. Because I definitely found that with my PSP7 for the first month, it was extremely sporadic. Sometimes I'd turn it on and have it running for half hour, an hour, and not get a single intelligent response through it. And that went on for, and then after about a month, I started to get the responses and stuff. What about, here's one for us all then. What about the Banshee? Do you believe in it? Yes, I do.
Yes.
Andy does. Sam?
Very
Be,
skeptical.
be honest.
Very skeptical, even though the Banshee there's a lot of stories in Ireland about the Banshee.
Hmm.
Extremely skeptical.
There you go then.
I
Joanne?
need to open my mind a little bit more, but I still have some of the blinkers are on. I'll admit that. I'll admit
Yeah, but
that.
the thing is, Sam, there's nothing wrong with being skeptical, you know. But as long as you're sitting there going, I'm prepared to find out, is how you should be. Just
Well,
because I always say to people, just because you believe in the paranormal doesn't mean you've got to necessarily believe in everything straight away. There's things I believe, like the Loch Ness monster's a good one for me. I was a fervent believer in the Loch Ness monster. Now I'm a fence sitter with it. I believe it's a possibility, but I ain't fully convinced that there's anything there.
I don't believe in aliens. It doesn't mean I'm going to. Doesn't mean I'm going to put the theory down. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to. I try my best not to stamp on other people's beliefs. But I do believe I still have some blinkers on. You know,
Mhm.
and I suppose skepticism is a good thing in a way. It's part of the journey. It's part of the.
Genuine skepticism's a good thing.
Hmm.
But there's people out there who'll claim they're skeptics and they're just disbelievers, and they will not keep an open mind on anything, on absolutely anything, and that's not skepticism. That's just being disbelief. Hi, James.
But then again, when you think about it, all the beliefs in the paranormal, most of it's based on theory.
Yeah.
You know.
Selena says she's been accused of being a banshee. I think most husbands have thought that about the partners at some point or another. Have I married a banshee? See, I've always believed in elementals, but I'd never really encountered anything to do with the Fae up until I met Andy as such. I believed in elementals because of the elemental side of Wicca, but Wicca doesn't really, the branch of Wicca that I believe in doesn't actually touch on the Fae as the Fae. They just reference them as the elementals. So I'd never put two and two together with them, sort of thing. Even though they are slightly different, they are all elemental in nature. Would you say that's true, Andy?
Uh, no.
What?
It's one of my pet peeves that
Yeah, go
people
on.
call. No, because honestly, the only elementals you've got is your fire, your air, your
Yeah,
water, your thing.
that's what I consider as true elementals.
Yeah, which are a specific type, and there's only gnomes that have got a foot in each realm, which
Hmm.
is elemental and fae.
Yeah.
The fae themselves are just the caretakers,
Yeah, but they're
whereas
connected with the elemental energies, ain't they? That's why that's how I
the,
class them.
kinda, yeah, they don't really converse between each other apart from
Hmm.
gnomes. It's
Yeah,
very strange, but yeah, it is a term I'm quite fickle up on,
yeah,
because if somebody goes, "Oh, it's an elemental," I'm like, "Oh, what have you pulled a salamander in? Are you talking to a
yeah,
fire
yeah,
elemental?"
yeah. And
And
if somebody says elemental to me, he's one of the four elements.
yeah, that's it.
You know,
Yeah,
but I associate the Fae with the elements because they have elemental alignment.
yeah, right.
And that's how
Right.
they're brought into Wicca, but not only on a very general basis. That's why I'd never
Yeah.
really had much to do with them because Wicca deals totally with the elementals themselves, the
Mm.
four elementals, and not so much with the Fae sort of thing, even though they're connected to them.
Yeah, I mean, like the two experiences I had when I was young. I'm still looking back on it now, going, yeah, how could this be possible? You know. But then again, with the paranormal, how is the paranormal possible? How
Exactly.
is objects moving on their own by an unseen force? You know, there's
Yeah.
lots and lots of things. You know,
The thing is, hang on, let me just read that. Jane says she's starting to believe in Faye. You've got to convert, Andy.
Oh, brilliant.
You know, the thing is, Sam, if you went back to, say, Neolithic times, and you sat there with Neolithic man with a magnet and a piece of iron, and you stuck that magnet near that iron, and that iron jumped to that magnet, they would consider it magic and
yeah,
paranormal and supernatural. All the paranormal means is we just haven't scientifically explained it at the moment. That's all it means.
yeah. Even electric light bulbs was
Yeah.
considered magic at the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when they first came out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah.
It depends which one you meet, Selena, as whether you'll find it a pleasant experience or not. If it looks like an horse, stay away from it. If you buy a river and there's a nice pretty grey horse on the side of the bank, do not get on its back. You'll be eaten. One of the few fae that eats people. Would you? Have you ever been to Leap Castle, Sam?
No, I haven't.
Were you aware that there's supposedly a red cap at Leap Castle, an elemental? Well, there's disagreement of what it is. Some claim there's an elemental there, and some claim it's a red cap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what a red cap is, but you know, it was believed that there was some sort of shape-shifting elemental in there.
Your red cap. Think of your garden gnome crossed with the Grim Reaper, and you're probably along the right lines.
Yeah, it's like a little goblin with a nomad. Yeah.
They say they get to about maximum 4 feet in height. Apparently, they're very skinny but strong, and they normally carry a huge axe or a huge scythe, and they are bloodthirsty, incredibly. They soak their cap in blood to survive.
Well, why would they be carrying that around with them all the time?
Because that's what they use to execute the victims.
Right.
They apparently they're supposed to be quite fond of ambush as well, ain't they, Andy? Attacking from like the sides or not seen, and then once they knock you over, they slice your throat with the axe or the scythe, and then they don't literally. Well, there's a bit of disagreement on the cap as well, because some believe that they literally soak the cap in the blood that turns it red, and other people believe they absorb the essence of the blood and it turns the cap red. But apparently, if a red cap's cap ever runs dry, it's fatal to the red cap, so they kill quite frequently. They're probably one of the most bloodthirsty fae I know of, ain't they, Andy, if you think about it?
Yes, definitely.
Because I was reading today as well, Andy, that Kelpie will attack other fae as well.
All right. You're doing some research. Are you thinking about going and finding one?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to see one. I wouldn't want to, get too close to it, though. So have you never heard any of those things surrounding Lake Castle, Sam?
No, only I watched Most Haunted and Derek Acora described a shape-shifting elemental. But then again, you know, he had come out with a lot of. He was influenced in some ways, but it's known. It's known here to have an elemental. Whether it's to do with Derek Acora or the fact that there is one,
Now, Leap Castle has had a very long history of the element. This is the other side of it. The other thing that's claimed to be there is this elemental. Now, this has got long-term history with the castle because it is believed the castle is actually built on the site of a druidic initiation temple
right,
where they
yeah.
actually initiated the druids, and the druids actually summoned the elemental as a guardian to protect the temple.
I probably think that's more likely the
Yeah,
case, and
and
the
I do, to be
red
honest with you.
cat theories come later on.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know, and if it is an elemental, it could take the form of whatever it wants, so it could appear to people as this nasty little goblin thing with a rather large battle axe.
Yes.
But it is believed that Leap Castle itself is actually built on the site of this druid. It's a druid temple, but it was where they used to initiate new druids, and the elemental there is one that they summoned to actually guard the temple itself, and it's still there to this day.
I think I
So
had.
Derek would have had. There's plenty of info on the internet that Derek could have accessed before he went to know about that. It's a very
Yeah,
famous thing known about the castle.
yeah. I think it's linked with the Hellfire Club as well.
Hmm.
You know.
Andy, are there any elementals that zap your energy? I know of. Yeah, that I've heard of some. Go on, Andy.
Yeah. Um, you'll find that a lot of them do because it's such a connection that you're making that gnomes. I'll take gnomes for example. Not a lot of people know this one, but apparently, if you spend too long around a gnome, connecting and communicating, you can tend to feel out of whack inside your head. It's like what they used to explain with old Mercury thing. You know how it makes you mad.
Yeah.
You can start going a bit like that.
Do you think that's where the phrase "away with the fairies" came from?
I think it could be, yeah.
You know that when you're around the fair, you get this sort of zoned out thing.
Yeah. Some would accept it and train themselves to, like, say it's like a trance-like state and
Yeah.
to embrace it, but some people wouldn't be able to cope with it. It all depends on individual, I think, doesn't it?
Hmm.
You know.
Just me.
There are psychic vampires known to exist, Chris. But whether I don't think they're actually classed as fae. They're a thing of their own. I don't know whether any of the fae are actually classed as psychic vampires, but there are beings that are considered to be psychic vampires that are not necessarily fae. Can you think of any fae that do it, Andy?
Uh, it's weird, that one, because in them books that you can, that one that you've got from Tracy.
That was what I want to look in there to see if that Irish vampire's in there, because I'd love to find that video again for Sam.
Yeah, I mean it does cover vampires in there, but I'm not certain if it's just the clubbing stuff in,
Mm-hmm.
But in general, no. It's a bit of an odd one because there's a certain somebody that works with a certain something. I'm not mentioning any names,
Mm-hmm.
but he says it feeds off you, and I know.
Yeah.
Well, I've got assumptions what that thing is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's my assumptions if you're not going to gift physically, then it could take from you what it needs psychically,
Yeah.
and etherically, which would suggest it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's possible, but rarer.
Yeah.
Much rarer.
There are definitely psychic vampire beings out there, but I don't know of any particularly fey ones, but I do know that they exist. But I don't think none of them that I know are classed as fey, or I don't think they are. I'll have to check. Conjured through religion as vampires are linked with crosses somehow. Well, the vampires are linked to the cross because apparently they lose their soul, don't they, when they become a vampire? So the cross, which is the representation of Christianity, and your soul goes to heaven. That's why vampires supposedly fear the cross. because it represents what they've lost. And apparently, I didn't realise until it was years before I realised, Andy. Apparently, they're susceptible to silver as well, like werewolves.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and apparently, they can't cross moving water.
Oh, really?
Hmm Is another belief regarding vampires. They can't physically cross moving water, which is quite interesting. Brett, do all the Fae make their home on Earth, or do they come from a different realm? Oh, Andy and his fairy portals. Go on, Andy. We always get onto the subject of fairy portals at some point.
What was the question? Do a minute. Oh, is it James's question?
Yep.
Uh, this is a tough one, right? So they're not necessarily. They are part of the Earth, but they're like a. If you think an extension reality of Earth, they're not after our physical resonation and frequency of Earth. It's like a slightly different one. So they're in their own realm, really, but they can pass through because they're more etherical than we are. We're more dense in our frequency. So that's why they can cross over and meet us, if you will. It's all a bit strange. It's all a bit weird.
Just
So,
think,
yeah.
just think of Faraday cages. They allow certain lengths of frequency through, and then block frequencies over a certain length.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like that, so that they can pass through the Faraday cage, but we struggle to. Think of it that way if you want, an analogy to try and describe it. Do you think that, something like that could explain things like time slips, Andy? Because there's the theory
I
that
do,
everything
yeah.
is happening at exactly the same time in there. And could they be just that, occasionally these frequency slips occur, and it allows you to, travel back in time or forward in time?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
that's
it
what
would
happens.
very much be a reasonable explanation.
Yeah, because if a lot of Buddhists you talk to, they talk about vibration and stuff, don't they? It's very prevalent in the
Yeah,
stuff they
yeah.
believe in, and they're very big on astral travel and reincarnation and that kind of stuff, and they do believe in these, in the vibration of things being able to pass through. I'm going to bed, guys. Great chat as always. Take care and God bless. You're welcome, Selena. I should be closing the stream down myself in a minute, to be honest with you, because it's nearly 12:30 and we've been going for 3.5 hours. So we'll run it until about past, and then we'll close it down. Has anybody else got any other questions that we can answer? All right. Stephen says, "So are the Fae invisible?" Technically, yes and no. Go on, Andy.
Yeah, yeah. No, you hit nail on the head then, Brett. Technically, yes and no. Depends if they want to show themselves.
I think again, like Andy just said about the frequencies, it's all down to what frequency they decide to resonate at. So if
Yeah.
they lower their frequency to ours, then you'll see them. If they want to disappear from view, they will speed their frequency back up or raise it, and then
I
they
mean,
will phase out. I
there's no,
think.
yeah, there's no saying as well that they can go to a frequency we know nothing about with
Yeah.
beings we wouldn't even consider real
Yeah.
that they can see. It's all, weird, mystical,
Mhm.
magical stuff.
What's your opinion on time slips, Sam?
I've seen some of the documentaries on it. Apparently, some people on a boat and two ladies in a car, and actually, the two ladies in a car actually drove into an area which seemed to be that same area, but way back a couple hundred years ago. It looked that way.
One of the most famous cases is the Gardens of Versailles, when them two ladies went back and apparently saw Marie Antoinette and the garden party going on. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's one of the most famous cases.
Yeah, and then there was another one involved in a boat and a very, very strong mist that surrounded the boat and disappeared as quick as it arrived. And when they arrived back, they were gone longer than they thought they were gone, or shorter, something to that effect.
Yeah.
It's one of these unexplainable things, sort of
Yeah.
thing. You know.
See, I know you don't believe in aliens, but you know, there's a lot of people who believe that aliens are basically from inner space rather than outer space. You know, and they believe that they're traveling via, you know, reality rather than distance. That could explain when people claim they're abducted. Are they being, you know, pulled into a realm where time is different, and that's why when they come back, you know, hours or whatever could have passed. It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
When you think about it too, the Earth produces, EMF, and
Yeah,
that's a frequency,
it produces all sorts of weird frequencies.
and that's a frequency in itself.
Yeah,
And the possibility that people are seeing things is because the possibly that, we're producing man-made energy as well, which could be conflicting with that.
yeah,
And that's where we could see paranormal activity. Yes, high doses of EMF can cause illusions and stuff, but it doesn't say that it wouldn't cause a conflict with the frequencies that are part of the dimension that we don't understand, that we can't see. And
yeah.
possibly why people see apparitions.
Right, we'll answer these last two questions before we call it a night. Now, James, your question I can't answer, but I know both Sam and Andy can answer this one. So instead of Andy and Brett, I'm going to read it as Andy and Sam. Andy and Sam, have you ever found somewhere where the Fae are living, like a home, in a hole, or inside a tree? Sam?
Yeah, there was a hole at the bottom of our garden, right beside a river, which we thought was an animal. But one day, something went into that looked like no animal that I actually know of. Because when I was a kid, I used to gather some of the insects and the aquatic creatures that was in that stream, and I used to look them up on the encyclopedias. There was a lot of things I knew about animals, but this particular animal, there's nothing that I've even seen today that resembles what went into that hole.
What did it look like, Sam?
It looked like a green, like the green that Andy.
Your sound's gone off, Sam.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, there was a bit of a glitch there for some reason.
All we got was it looked like the green Andy, and then you cut off.
It looked like the green and Andy's logo there, and it looked like it was a creature with long sort of arm. Glitching again.
Yeah, you're glitching.
An upright creature.
How strange.
You're glitching again, Sam.
Yeah, for some.
The Fae don't want you to talk about this. Would you say it was humanoid and green? Yeah, you're definitely cutting out, Sam.
Wow.
Try unplugging your mic and plugging it back in.
Microphone.
Go on, say something.
Am I okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
That's not.
Now you're cutting out again.
I have a bit of a conflict.
Do you want to give your thing while Sam's sorting the sound out, Andy?
Yeah, can do. I don't believe I've ever come across a physical home.
Mm-hmm.
I could be mistaken because some of them are that well disguised, but what I can say is I have come across a couple of spots that are being guarded. That is a thin spot between realms. I'm kind of cataloguing and getting confirmations as much as I can of a different equipment
Right.
where these places are.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully one day I might get a look into something.
Okay, go. Sam, do you want to try again?
Yeah, I think it was my other camera that was glitching there. Yeah, this creature, I only seen it once.
Mm-hmm.
But my neighbours asked me not to disturb that hole because if you did, you do not know what's in that hole.
Right, do you want to describe it again? Because you cut out all the while you were describing it.
It was a kind of a greeny brown with very long arms, almost down to the ground, but walking on 2 feet.
Right.
But very small.
So humanoid shape, but long arms and tiny.
Wouldn't say humanoid shape. It was sort of like it was like a crooked egg, if you know what I mean.
Right. Okay.
There was a head and a sort of a fat body, and then there was kind of like little bumps on its back the whole way down.
Right. That's
You know?
interesting. Yeah.
Can't explain it. Never will. Never will be. You know.
Right. The last question of the night was that was strange how Sam cut out then. Andy, this is a serious question now, and I can I can say I have encountered this, and I'll ask Sam if she has as well after you've answered. Andy, this is a serious question now, but have you ever felt when out in nature the ground beneath you move slightly like in a wave motion? Now I can say yes to that. I have actually experienced that.
Yeah.
Sam, have you ever been out and felt like the ground's slightly moved?
Yes. But I've actually found this in a house as well. In one particular part of a location that I was in.
It's interesting.
And it was more than me that experienced it.
Yeah.
It felt like the ground was closer to us than we actually thought it was.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very.
The way I experienced was it felt like, if you're on a conveyor belt on an escalator.
Yeah.
And it felt like you moved slightly forward and then slightly back. That was how it felt to me. I don't know how it felt like what you've experienced, Andy.
Mine is like a visual disturbance as well. Like I can't explain it. It's so hard to explain.
You see, the thing with. Sorry, I didn't realise you weren't finished.
No, it's alright. It's just like a shift. It's like it affects a lot of things at the same time because you feel it.
Yeah.
Your eyes can sometimes pick up on a
and it goes
weird.
It goes really quiet as well normally.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
It's like one of them really bizarre things that you've got to experience. You can't put it into words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you all experienced that in an house, Sam, all at the same time.
Yeah, Cumber House, the corner of the Barry area. Not the last time I was investigating, but the time before. and we had a sensitive with us.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went into the corner of this room, I asked that lady to come over, and I says, "Can you explain what you feel in this corner of this room?" And it was exactly what I was feeling. You know,
Yeah.
a movement,
Yeah.
a kind of a slight movement like that, but the ground felt like it was coming up and down like this as well.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So, I didn't say, "Oh, I feel like this." I says, "Can you, there's something a little bit off about this corner.
Mm-hmm.
Could you come over and try and explain it?" And she came over and she explained exactly. She says, it's like a wave motion that's going up and down. I said, "That's exactly why I asked you to come over." You know?
Yeah. James says, Brett, what does it mean? Does it mean there's a gnome tunneling underneath you or something like that? No, I think it's more of a reality or a perception shift, to be honest with you, James. That's what I personally think it is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sam, what do you think? What did you think it was?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Right,
You know.
I think it's a slight shift in perception. I just thought it was nature's way of crying. Right, guys, we're going to call it a night because it's got to be half past. It's actually 25 to 1, so we've gone a bit longer than we were
Yeah.
planning. But thank you all for coming on again. It's always great to see you in and have the questions and for you to join in. And I'd like to say thank you to Andy and Sam again.
No
If you're
problem.
not subscribed to either of Andy's or Sam's channels, please do consider subscribing because they're both good channels. We'll be back on Friday. Looks like we've got our topic sorted out, and it looks like you will have 4 of us on Friday. It should be a good discussion because we'll be getting Orbs Realm's point of view from what he thinks orbs are, and then we can have Andy's point of view from an elemental fae sort of elemental and fae sort of view. So we'll see you all on Friday. It will probably be 9 o'clock, but that is subject. But it will definitely be Friday. Time may vary. We've yet to see. But thank you all for a good night again. Thank you, Andy and Sam, for coming on.
Thank you,
No
Brett,
worries.
for having us on.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you to everybody watching.
Yeah,
Right,
thanks everybody.
We'll see you all on Friday. Good night, all.
Good night,
Good
folks.
night, all.